Yeah, I don't even meet my own neighbors who live there all the
Jill
time.
says. Good afternoon.
But that's interesting.
Today is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, and the time right now is 4:32 p.m. We're going to start today's school board meeting. We welcome each and every one of you that are here in the audience or listening from home. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem. The Pledge of Allegiance will be by Forest Lake Elementary Safety Patrols, and DeLand High's marching band will be the national anthem. Following both of those, please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, please stand to join me.
Hi there, my name's Coach D. I'm in charge of the safety patrol team here at Forest Lake Elementary, and they will be reciting the Pledge of Allegiance for you all.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. So at this time, I'd like to introduce those that are here with me. On my far left, we have Mrs. Donna Brosmer representing District 4, then Mrs. Krista Goodrich representing District 2, Dr. Gilbert Evans, our school board attorney. Moving on over to my far right, we have Ms. Celeste Gilmore, our agency clerk, Mrs. Jessie Thompson representing District 3, Mr. Ruben Colon, our vice chair representing District 5, then Dr. Carmen Balgman, our wonderful superintendent, and I'm Jamie Haynes, your chair at this time representing District 1. Items for approval on the agenda are items 1.02, 2.02, 6.02, 18.01, and 18.02. Public participation times for items on the consent agenda. There is a time to speak prior to us voting on the consent agenda. There's also a 6 p.m. period for items of general interest pertaining to public education in Volusia County. A total of up to 15 minutes will be provided for public comment at this time. Then time will be provided for public comment on any action item before a board vote is called on that item. And then time will be provided at the end of the meeting for public comment for items of general interest pertaining to public education in Volusia County before items from the board, superintendent, or school board attorney are up for discussion or announcement. Our district vision statement is to create lifelong learners prepared for an ever-changing global society. At this time, I invite any of the school board members to share. Ms. Brosmer.
I have very little to say at this moment. I spent the last couple of weeks dealing with legislation and in Tallahassee, and so I'll save most of my comments for later, but I thought it was a great trip, and I really appreciated being able to go.
Thank you. Mrs. Thompson?
Yeah, welcome back everyone from spring break. Hope everyone started off the week very fun for a Monday. I will say, as a reminder, that the Superintendent's Spring Reading Challenge is still going on, and I'm very, very well aware of that because my children constantly have me log in their minutes for all these books that take 5 to 7 minutes to read. So thank you, Dr. Balgobin, for initiating that
You're
challenge.
very welcome.
It's been fun all spring break. Also, I know there were quite a few of us that went to Tallahassee, and I will say it was, I think, the best trip yet as far as talking to our legislators and really helping them understand what we're going through, whether it's in testing or safety. A lot of the concerns I know we've all gotten emails about, we had a lot of really, really good conversations. So hoping to see a lot of improvements and just moving forward with education. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cologne.
And so, as everyone stated, welcome back from spring break. There's so many great things have been going on. The arts in Volusia County are alive and well. I will tell you, we've had so many wonderful concerts, both at middle school, high school level, that folks have no idea. I sometimes wonder if we just need to invite all our chambers to a free concert because they have no idea that the quality of musicians that we have here in Volusia County. We had the CTE Awards. Now, don't forget, I'm making up for last time, so bear with me. CTE Awards, again, congratulations to those folks. We had the opportunity to serve breakfast. I may be going back a little bit further, but that's okay. You all will forgive me. The attendance challenge, I'm really proud to say that our schools have stepped it up. I know that we had a recognition for the second time at Pine Ridge. We had a recognition at Heritage, recognition at Deltona Middle, and recognition at Galaxy and Spirit Elementary. So it looks like they are doing, I can tell you across the district, and I've heard it, people are doing very creative things to motivate students to come to school, to bring awareness to parents of the importance of students being in school, and kind of taking away the lackadaisical, let's just miss a day, because it does add up. Special shout out to Mike and his team, who I know, and social workers. And, when you go to the schools and you see all the different folks that come together, and, while the principal gets the recognition, oftentimes there's an army and they're like, yeah, no, these are the ladies that are doing it, whether it's ice cream, popsicles. I mean, I remember as a kid doing anything for a Cheeto. So, it definitely motivates them. And so again, shout out to all our schools for all that work that they've been doing. Many of our bands have been to MPA and come back with superiors. I know both Pine Ridge and Deltona High did amazingly well, and there were also some middle school students that participated. So again, the arts are alive and well in Volusia County. I want to take a moment just to remind everyone that the sports physicals are coming up. I know a lot of times, it's this year back, and people oftentimes will say, well, I don't know if my kid's going to play next year. Well, go get a physical, because if you have any inclination that they might, and that includes middle school basketball, band, ROTC, any student that is out in the field in the heat, we do have the opportunity to also have the EKG screenings there. And so, again, those will be taking place, Dr. Balgobin, you have those dates, I would imagine, but April 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th at the Speedway. If your child needs transportation, please make sure they speak to the principal of the school. Transportation is available for our students. I'm going to keep going here. I'm almost done. It's almost 8 o'clock. And I think that is it for now. Thank you.
Mrs. Goodrich.
I want to give a shout out to Turi Teague and Sugar Mill and thank them for welcoming me onto campus, showing me all the things that are going on, and for being just incredible. The staff is working so hard, and I don't think they get enough recognition about how hard they're working to both increase attendance and also to take the data of all the information that they're getting and make improvements with the students. So I really thank them for showing me all that they're doing, and can't wait to see more schools.
So I do want to give a shout out for Taylor Middle High for winning the attendance award for the second quarter. They earned first place, and it was nice to go out there and to be able to give those students that award. Then also our DeLand and Greater West Volusia Chamber at this time of year are out recognizing the Danny Gannon Schools of Excellence here on the west side of the county. And so prior to spring break, we were at Southwestern Middle School, Dr. Balgam and I, to recognize Southwestern for the improvement and growth that they made from last year with their academics. And we have another one tomorrow where we'll be visiting, but they're throughout the rest of throughout April, because April is just around the corner. So we'll be recognizing the schools here on the west side of the county with that award. But I did something different this year. Freedom Elementary reached out, and this is not normally an area that, I'll be honest with you, I'm comfortable with. Put me in front of a room full of kids, and I'm great. Put me in front of a room full of adults, and I'm not so sure about that. But Freedom Elementary, once again, right before spring break, did their staff talent show. And it was so much fun, but they asked me to come over and MC it with a student from DeLand High. And trust me, he made it all fun and worthwhile. But each of the different grade levels, the teachers and staff, and even from some of the special programs and all that, they got up on stage and it was almost standing room. And we even moved children to sit on the floor in front of the stage to watch it, so there was more seating for the adults. But they all performed. But every performance was wonderful. And they picked songs that kind of related to the kids, like the whole Gummy Bear song. If you guys don't know the Gummy Bear song, the teachers were dressed in the whole Gummy Bear piece. And by the way, they handed out gummy bears at that same time, so of course they all went wild.
I've never heard that song. How does it go?
I'm not singing the Gummy Bear song. But at the end of the evening,
Me either. We should let her.
at the end of the evening, the administrative team and front office staff did the final thing. And Dr. Eric's up there with a guitar, okay? And they are playing, and the place went wild. And Miss Murray, the assistant principal, she was the lunch lady. So if you know whatever that song is, it was so much fun. And it was a nice way that Thursday evening. I was like, it's Thursday evening, and spring break starts tomorrow for kids. We're not going to have a room full of people. No, it was packed. And it was fun for the kids. It was fun for the parents. And I think the staff enjoyed it themselves. So if anybody else wants to do something like that, reach out to Freedom Elementary, because it was a blast. And I enjoyed myself. And if they asked me to go back next year, I would be happy to go back and help them out with that program, because it was great. But at this time, we're moving on to item 1.03, approval of the minutes. Board members, you've had an opportunity to read the minutes from the March 11th workshop and from the school board meeting. Do I have someone that'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cologne. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the workshop and the school board meeting minutes from March 11th, 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. We are now moving on to item 2.01, agenda changes. Dr. Balgman, are there any agenda changes before the agenda is presented to the board for approval?
Madam Chair, I have no changes at this time.
Okay, board members, you've heard that there are no changes at this time. Do I have someone to make a motion to approve the presented agenda?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Brosmer. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda as it's been presented this evening, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. We are now on to item 3.01. Dr. Balgobin, your announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members, members of the audience. I see some of our principals and staff members and students in here. Welcome to our school board meeting. For those of you tuning in from home, thank you for joining us. I hope everyone had a wonderful spring break. I will tell you that usually we do Monday and Fridays. And Monday, you look at everyone coming in and they seem very, very relaxed, and you could tell that they were able to disconnect a little bit. And then on Fridays, I'd like to do that view again, and you can tell that they had a week. But it's not Friday yet, guys. A couple things I want to share with you. You're absolutely right, Ms. Thompson, because our students, and Charlie needs to log in her minutes for the spring reading challenge. Our students will have to access Beanstack or our parents and log those minutes in. 400 to 599 minutes gives you a Daytona Lagoon arcade pass, and over 600 minutes gets you a Daytona Lagoon water park tickets. What is Charlie going for?
We've already surpassed the 600 for both kids, so we're going to the water park.
I
together.
assume so we're going to have to step it up a little bit, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Now, fluency, our fluency challenge is for our 2nd through 5th graders, and that's the spring fluency challenge, and that will run until May the 2nd, guys. So again, the grade level across the district with the highest percentage of students completing their target I-Ready fluency flight days, they will win a Kona ice party. Make sure we share that.
I absolutely will.
In addition to that, upcoming dates, April 2nd is regarded as World Autism Awareness Day. April 2nd also is Paraprofessionals Appreciation Day. We will have something going out for our paraprofessionals for that day, and also a message going out for World Autism Day. In addition to that, April the 4th, it's National School Librarian Day. April the 6th through the 12th, National Library Week, and April 7th through the 11th, it's National Assistant Principal Weeks, and I see we have some assistant principal in here, so we will be celebrating our APs during that week. In addition to that, I will share with you that just before spring break, Ms. Thompson, myself, and Mr. Cash, we had the opportunity of attending the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce, their breakfast. We had an opportunity of sharing a little bit of some of the successes that our students have earned and our staff has earned here in Volusia County. But more importantly, I want to say thank you to all of our chambers, including our Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce, because I will tell you, our experience in working with our chambers is truly, it's an engaging one. It's one that's truly supportive. As a matter of fact, I think before spring break as well, our team participated in a literacy workshop facilitated by the Daytona Chamber of Commerce. So our chambers of commerce are truly entrenched and working along our sides, and our successes are their success, and we know that schools are part of communities. So we want to thank them for their ongoing support. Ms. You talked a little bit about the Danny Gainan School of Excellence Award. So tomorrow there is a surprise. There's another school that will be receiving a $500 check, and this is being done by the DeLand
and Greater West
and
Volusia.
Greater West Volusia. They are the one who sponsor this. So I want to also thank our friend and partner in education who was there, Joe Hearn, and we look forward to seeing him tomorrow, and some of the board members were there as well. We would like to once again congratulate Southwestern Middle School for improving their academic grade to a B this past year, and I know that they're working feverishly to get to that A status. So congratulations. Dr. Ty and the entire team, but also, you know what, Ms. Jacquees Copeland, who was there and put those foundations in place. We want to thank the entire team. And with that said, I hate to disappoint you this evening, but I have no short videos for you. I'm sure we'll make up next time.
Next time, yes. All right, then we're moving right along to item 4.01, our Sunshine State Scholars. Dr. Balgobin?
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, we have one recognition tonight honoring our Sunshine State Scholars. And this is a big deal. As you know, Volusia County is one of the best when it comes to science and STEM. We all know that. I think we're top 3 in the state of Florida. So I would like to ask our wonderful coordinator, she's here, Ms. Jen Taylor. She will come and announce and speak a little bit and then announce our state winners.
Thank you for having me. Each year, the state of Florida asks each school district to select their top 2 11th grade students in the areas of science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, and 1 alternate. Students from all 10 high schools submitted applications, which included an essay on what they felt was the top STEM issue of their day and how they would solve it. In addition to the essay, they are asked to submit their GPA, SAT scores, ACT scores, their volunteer hours, and any awards they've received in math and science. This is the cream of the crop behind me. In Volusia County, we actually recognize 3 Sunshine State Scholars, and they were invited to a special event at Embry-Riddle with IMSA, where we were able to spend the day with them. 2 of our Sunshine State Scholars, along with their parents, will be honored in Tallahassee by the Commissioner of Education. And in addition, they will meet with representatives from Florida colleges, universities, and businesses to discuss higher education opportunities that are available to them in the state of Florida. We want to keep them here. At this time, I would like to introduce all 3 Sunshine State Scholars, if they would come up. Ava Henderson from Atlantic High School, Caleb Lewis. Caleb Lewis from New Smyrna Beach High School. And Garrick Spencer from Deltona High School. Just want to personally thank each and every one of you for making us proud in the area of STEM. At this time, we will start with the first picture with Dr. Balgobin, Garrick Spencer.
And we have certificates for them that they will receive at some point, correct?
They have them right here.
Okay. Oh, good. Perfect.
So we're gonna start with Ava.
You want to start with Ava?
Yes.
There you go, Ava.
And so, principal, family, anyone that's here with Ava.
I understand. Been a couple hours.
Here. You have great. Wow. 4.5 GPA. Amazing.
You guys are going to go after.
Her mom is here.
Come on, Mom.
We're going to wait until Caleb come back.
It's not so fast.
Awesome job. Congrats, Mom.
You guys can move. You're right there.
Yes, you are the. You know what? I would.
There we go. All right, everyone look right here. Get the camera.
I always check one time there.
Okay, Kayla.
Come on. Congratulations.
You guys are with her.
Congratulations. What is that GPA?
Yeah, for real.
My goodness. Give me a hug. Oh my goodness. Congratulations. Okay, so proud. Congratulations. Does he know what it was? Doesn't matter. The sky is gonna be the sky. 4.6.
Everyone take one step to your left.
You have to be so proud. 4.6, my goodness. Congratulations, sweetheart. I know, I love it. If you don't mind.
We're dad.
I will never
You tell him I am heartbroken. Yes. You tell him I am heartbroken that he wasn't here. I was looking for, no, tell Dad we were looking for him.
Great job.
Yeah, Danielle. Good job.
We're done with pictures, right?
We are now moving on to item 5.01. At this time, we're at the consent agenda. Are there any cards completed where anyone wants to speak about anything on the consent agenda? We're good? Okay. Then at this time, Dr. Balgobin, are there any items requiring removal on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I have no items.
Board members, are there any items on the consent agenda that you would like to remove for further discussion or remove for standalone?
I have one,
Okay, what item?
1201, and it's not for a separate vote.
It's not for,
Not,
Okay.
no.
so 1201 for Mrs. Brosmer. Are there any other items?
Madam Chair, I have item, see it. It's the one for the asking for an increase in the totals. Hold on, I'm going to make it bigger so I can see it here. So that is 9.10, is it?
There is no 9.10.
No, it's 10.04. The increase in requests, and I don't need that for a second vote. I just wanted to make a comment on that.
10.04?
10.04, which is expenditure increase request.
Yes, I found it. Any other items? We're going to start in numerical order, so Mr. Cologne, we'll start with you for item 10.04.
So I wanted to share, I asked Mr. Cease for the totals of, this is asking for an increase, but I had asked for the totals of what we've expended for the year. And so I just wanted to say, some of these might equate to the ability to hire some folks, for example, what we're spending on speech pathologists and interpreting services and et cetera. So and I'm sure they're doing this, I just want to verbalize that maybe we could find ways or incentives that we can use to help potentially hire some of these folks full-time, see what we need to do in order to do that, to reduce the cost of the agencies. I have a feeling that the costs are not going to continue to go down, and so finding the ability and what it would take to entice folks to come work for the school district rather than for the agencies would be a plus. So that was my only statement on that one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I actually, when I met with them in agenda conference, brought up the same concerns that you had, that if we could find some speech and language pathologists, or especially for our deaf and hard of hearing, if we could find interpreters and we could bring them in-house, I think it would be more beneficial for our students and for us.
Agreed.
Okay, we're now moving on to item 12.01. Mrs. Brosmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking for some understanding about how Schoolway Cafe works, because it was my understanding that they had their own budget. And so I was looking at this list of positions, and if I'm reading it correctly, of the 6, 2 are existing and 4 are new. So I was curious to know, if they have their own budget, why are they on our agenda? How does that work?
I think
Oh.
here they are. Ms. Workman, our Executive Director for HR, and Ms. Patty Core, our Chief Operating Officer.
The first thing I'd like to address are the job descriptions. All of these are existing positions. They have been under one job description, so it would be like an assistant, but then there would be assistant 1 responsibilities, assistant 2, 3, 4. So through our cleanup process, we want every position to have its own standalone job description. So that's why it looks like they're new. They're only new in regards that they're being removed from that umbrella.
Okay,
So that's just language change is all it is, making it nice and clean.
thank you.
And Patty?
Yes, good evening. And the reason that it comes to the board is because any job descriptions or any job changes come through the board regardless of the funding. So job changes come to the board.
So they are still technically employees of the district?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, they
Oh,
are.
Okay, but separately funded?
That is correct. They
Self-funded,
come out of their own funding through Schoolway Cafe.
Okay, thank you. That was all I needed. I just wanted to understand how it worked.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any further discussion on any of the items for consent? Okay, hearing none, I need someone to make an approval to approve the consent agenda as it's written.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Brosmer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda for this evening, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. We are now moving on to, we're skipping item 16 at this time because we are not at 6 p.m., so we're moving on to item 17, which is a presentation. Item 17.01, Leadership Development of Principals at Harvard Graduate School of Education. Dr. Balgobin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To provide a little bit of context, we all know that Futures Foundation is our educational foundation. And they have been extremely gracious in understanding that we need to have a strong pipeline. We need to build practices that are research-based practices. We need to ensure that our team, when it comes to the knowledge base, when it comes to skill set, that it's cutting edge. And with that, it said, they have sponsored for us the very first cohort of instructional leaders to attend a premier, truly outstanding, I would say, international program for leadership practices to a group of principals that attended this cohort, the very first. So one of the expectation and one of the targets of that proposal is that our principals would attend this seminar, which it was a very rigorous seminar. I think they were there, they started 8 o'clock, they will conclude close to 6 o'clock every day. They will be given homework every day. Very rigorous platform, come back and put together a trainer of trainer models for our principals here in Volusia County. And this team did just that. So we are at midpoint now, and they would like to provide the board, but also tomorrow morning, they will be providing Futures Foundation with an overview of how that trainer of trainer model is coming along. And as we look at our second cohort, again, thanks to Futures Foundation. So I would like to ask at this point that Dr. Joe Castelli, our director now, but back then he was one of the attendees when he was principal at Mainland, Our Director for Secondary Schools, Alicia Douglas, our wonderful principal from Manatee Cove Elementary, Mr. Josh Jackson, Principal for Creekside Middle, and Ms. Wafa Piciolo. Wafa, look at that, Piciolo. Our coordinator, yes, that's how it's pronounced, coordinator for professional learning. They will come forward and give you a brief overview of how that trainer-of-trainer model is coming along. I mentioned Josh Jackson, didn't I? Did I not? Josh?
We still have a few sitting.
Well, good evening, school
I
board chair. Oh, I am so sorry. Please.
Sorry, pause. Am I missing anyone else that's here for the trainer-of-trainer?
Dr. Barber, if I may,
Yeah.
the other participants, Joy Boyd Walker, is here as well.
Ms.
For
Boyd
support,
Walker.
Because they're presenting, but all of them attended Harvard, including, Ms. Volusia,
Holly Bailey,
Holly Bailey,
back there. Anyone else? I don't want to miss anyone.
Bequeath.
Ms. Copeland? Ms. Copeland is here also,
and she was a principal last year.
and she was a principal last year. All right, so
We can all stand together if you'd like. Have them
we
stand
will
behind us.
definitely all
I think that would
stand
be amazing.
together, and absolutely, we will do that.
Thank you. I've been waiting.
Why
to do
don't you guys just join the team, guys? You came all the way here, join. Join the team.
Thank you, Dr. Balgan.
I love the
I
coordinated
love
shirts.
it, I love it. Look at that, very nice.
Okay, we can't, Josh needs to move over.
Yeah.
No. Fine, that works.
Like this.
There you go. There you
Hold
go.
on, Danielle's coming, the official camera.
While we're here.
Beautiful. Nice. It's all yours.
Well, good evening, School Board Chair Haynes, Mr. Cologne, Mrs. Goodrich, Mrs. Thompson, Mrs. Brosmer, and Superintendent Balgaman. My name is Dr. Joseph Castelli, and I serve as the Director of Secondary Schools. From July 14th through the 19th last summer, 11 of us had the privilege of attending the Leadership Development for Principals training at the Harvard University. Today, we are excited to share our transformative experience and discuss how it has significantly enhanced our leadership capabilities, ultimately driving increased student achievement within our schools. This presentation aligns with our Guardrail 1, which focuses on building leadership capacity to recruit, support, develop, and retain high-quality staff, as well as Guardrail 2 of our district strategic plan, which aims to provide an environment conducive to enhancing student learning. Participating in last summer's first cohort at the Harvard experience are our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Julio Nazario Valle, Executive Director of Elementary Schools, Ms. Christy Castellanos, Executive Director of Secondary Schools, Dr. Tamara Baker Drayton, Director of Secondary Schools, Mr. William Reeser, Executive Director of ESE, Ms. Jacquees Copeland, Coordinator of Professional Learning, Ms. Wafa Petrolo, Principal at Blue Lake Elementary School, Ms. Holly Bailey, Principal at Manatee Cove, Ms. Alicia Douglas, Principal at Turie T. Small, Ms. Joy Boyd Walker, and Principal at Creekside Middle School, Mr. Joshua Jackson.
So the question is why? Why does a team from Volusia County travel to Cambridge, Mass. and attend Harvard for a trip such as this? Let it be known that the Harvard Graduate School of Education is the premier graduate school of education in the United States and around the world. HIGSE, as it's commonly referred to, is the home of the leading thinkers on educational leadership, working collaboratively with the Harvard Business School and the Harvard Kennedy School of Leadership and public policy. When you walk around Harvard, forever you see the word veritas, truth. Ultimately, that's our why, to seek truth. To study and to understand is to know. To not study and understand is only to think, relying upon only our lived experiences, not the facts and understanding proven throughout the world. VCS leaders on this team were hungry for knowledge and willing to lead their peers, learning with key educational leaders from around the world. From 5 continents and throughout the United States, this team learned with great thinkers from around the nation and around the world, exchanging best practices, sharing vulnerabilities, and learning the truth that Harvard had to offer. Harvard offers a number of other summer training experiences, but this summer training experience was specifically selected because it supported teacher growth and professional learning. It re-engages students. It improves and changes school culture. It manages the mental health needs of our students and staff. And finally, it addressed the community and family engagement throughout our broader school family.
Harvard Professional Learning Program was an exclusive learning opportunity. We engaged and learned alongside of world-renowned experts in education. They conducted action research, written scholarly publications, and have participated in years of educational collaboration initiatives. This interactive and engaging experience was exhausting. They had us read pre-readings prior to us even departing to be in Boston. We had readings to read. Once we were there, we had readings every single night. When we got to the sessions in the morning, we were interacting one-on-one with these world-renowned researchers. I was a little bit of a groupie. I was the historian taking pictures of everything. And we all engaged with those researchers and were able to have discussions around the room with everyone else from around the nation. And it was very thought-provoking. We were able to learn practical classroom strategies and apply it to the real world. The sessions they provided us with, they built upon one another, and that ensured our learning and our ability to come back and apply it. So just for example, to give you some names of some of these world-renowned experts, Irma Tyler Wood, she worked to improve educational practices for all learners. Sarah Edith Fairman has researched and written several books and journals regarding school leadership and instructional improvement. Vanjay Pajik helped with practical leadership development skills that foster collaborative school cultures. Deborah Helsing, she helped us identify and how to establish a growth mindset for our educators. And Mark Bedell focused his work on data-driven leadership to improve student outcomes. And it was really very apparent to us that they had collaborated. They had collaborated prior to our experience with them because, like I said, a lot of the sessions built upon one another. And so this allowed us to have personal growth, but also to refine our leadership skills. You know, our educators, our teachers, they depend on us for their growth. And so how do we then refine our growth as well? And so this was an amazing opportunity to kind of hone in on some of those leadership skills. So in building leadership capacity and bringing it back like they were speaking of, we learned different ways to refine our professional learning opportunities that we have for not only our educators in the classroom, but we have teacher leaders on our campus too. And how do we grow them as well? So that teacher empowerment piece, being able to provide real-time feedback, but making things more succinct and more efficient, because there's a lot we can do, right? But what's most efficient and what's going to be the most impactful for our students? Learning how to engage in those conversations and have those discussions that lead to results. And then just being reflective practitioners, because that's what we do as educators. We are going to share a couple examples of those practical applications for you so that you can see some of the things that we were able to bring back. It was days of information, so we can't share everything, but we just want to highlight some things that we came back and shared at the elementary, middle, and high school level. So the first example is this consultancy protocol exercise. And basically, it's very similar to this atmosphere here, because there's a presenter, that's me, and then there is the discussion room or the thoughts, the minds, right, that you would then present to. So I would come to you with either a problem that I need to think through, and I would share with you the complexities of a new initiative or something, a challenge in my practice. And then I would just explain everything that I know to be true about that situation to you. And then you, as my colleagues or peers, would then ask me some clarifying questions about my problem that I may not have addressed when I initially told you about it. And after you go through that process, then I'm quiet. And actually, how they had us do it was I would turn my back to you, and now you all would then problem solve together as a collective unit, and you would come up with solutions to my problem without me speaking or talking to you. And then I would turn around, and then I would then share anything that I'd learned from that experience. And it's great because, like we said, there's people from all over the nation who have similar problems of practice that we have here in Volusia County. And so we were able to glean a lot from that, but even bringing that work back here to Volusia and doing it with our collective peers has been extremely helpful. And I know we have this consultancy protocol, that exercise we're going to be doing Friday at Mrs. Boyd's school. So a lot of practical applications that we were able to bring back with us. Welcome.
Going back to empowering leadership, school culture is something that you hear a lot about, but it's something that I learned needs to be focused on very intentionally. We have school improvement plans. We have goals, academic goals. But part of that is that a plan, an intentional plan as a leader of what our school culture looks like. School culture is basically how we do the work. And so within how we do the work, part of that is that the work is our mission-driven work. So one of the things, as you find out, is that teachers are leaving the profession because they not just burn out, but the focus of mission-driven work. And also as a leader, having such an audacious, unrealistic goal sometimes to get them and push them forward is extremely important. But as a leader, it's about trusting down and leading up. Meaning that as a leader, you're trusting your teacher leaders, you're trusting your administrative team, you're trusting everybody intentionally within your school campus, focusing on their strengths, coaching them, building them up, and allowing them to lead up during that process. It's moving people without being moved. So one of the things that is that you can have the best strategy in the world. Your SIP plan can look golden, be approved, gone through all of the different checks and balances we need to go through. However, if you do not invest in the school culture, then that strategy will not be as successful. And so it's extremely important. In my first year at Creekside, Mr. Cash has done a fantastic job building the school. And I am so blessed and proud to be able to take that work and bring it and carry it forward. One of the big focuses for me has been school culture, making sure I understand the school, making sure I understand the teachers, but at the same time, slowly and strategically leaving an imprint that will impact positive teaching and learning.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And good evening again. So although my recent transition has taken me away from the principal role, I am thrilled to have participated in the Harvard Institute and share my experience as principal with you this evening. the opportunity to collaborate with educational professionals from around the globe. They were from everywhere, Australia, Lebanon, all over our nation. We were able to talk about strengthening our parent and community partnerships. It was invaluable. For me, the intense work around school issue problem solving aligned perfectly with my servant leadership approach and my goals to increase student achievement through family engagement. During our daily sessions, our ideas were shared, challenged, and critiqued, as Ms. Douglas mentioned, by colleagues to ensure we returned ready to implement the strategies we developed. The data discussed reinforced our belief that strong family partnerships help our students thrive. One initiative we developed and launched at my school, and which Ms. Boyd Walker also implemented, were family instructional planning nights. These events allowed families to participate in real classroom work and actual lessons with their children's teachers, and the parents had the opportunity to dive deep into the learning and bring the rigor and understanding of the work back home. It was a very powerful experience, and it continues to grow at both schools each time we do it. This example of applying our learning to everyday practice demonstrates the return on impact detailed in the graphic on the screen. Engaging our families and communities in the heavy lifting rather than the traditional conference night setting has been a win-win for our students and shows that it truly takes a village to grow our student achievement. My time at the Institute strengthened my capacity to lead as a high school principal and beyond. The lessons learned and the new partnerships have provided me with invaluable tools to share with my fellow school leaders. Oh, you want the microphone?
So in these next two slides, we'll discuss how attending the Harvard Institute offered numerous benefits that helped to build our leadership capacity that we brought back district-wide in Volusia County. At Harvard, we gained insights into different leadership frameworks. One of them was the instructional core. It described how there are three components that are interdependent of each other: the student, the teacher, and the rigorous content, and how these work hand in hand and not in isolation. There are 7 principles to the instructional core, and the majority of these principles focus on the student task. This was a great session, and in the next slide, we will discuss how we brought it back to our principals and assistant principals throughout our district. So we discussed the instructional core framework and how important it was to analyze student tasks. This is where we look at the alignment between the benchmark and what the students are actually asked to do. Harvard kept telling us, when you're in a classroom and observing, look down. They emphasize the importance of looking down and looking at what tasks the students are being asked to do, and then determining, is it at the level of what the benchmark is asking for? We brought this back to our principals and assistant principals, and we implemented it into our Synergy Walks. We had over 200 of our administrators involved in this process just this past school year. We looked at and walked classrooms in over 20 of our schools, and we were in over 80 classrooms this year. And what we were looking at in the classrooms was exactly that, the student tasks the students were being asked to work on. Collaboratively, principals and assistant principals discussed what the expectations of the benchmarks were, and then we took pictures of the task and we talked about, was this actually in alignment with the benchmark? We had a lot of aha moments, and this was a great learning for all our administrators, and we also had our district support teams who helped with the content as well. Targeted feedback was then provided to the leadership teams. They shared effective teaching strategies among our schools. Principals and assistant principals were then able to bring it back to their own school sites and provide their teachers with targeted feedback, specifically on the alignment between student tasks. In addition, and as we heard before, we met people from all over the world. We met people from Brazil, Canada, Chile, Greece, India, Jordan, my favorite Palestine where I'm from, and I actually got to meet 2 other Wafas there, so that was really cool. I have a picture with them. They were like, there's other Wafas? I'm like, yes, it's not just me. But it was really, really an invaluable lesson, because to this day, we have connections with people from all over the world. We're connecting on WhatsApp, and we share resources about our school districts from across the globe that we're sharing back and forth with each other. So it didn't just stay at Cambridge.
And like Wafa said, it didn't just stay at Cambridge. Even though they cautioned us that when we came home, that we would have Harvard flashing across our foreheads because we would feel so proud and inside feel so different. It changed our lives. I'm comfortable saying that for each of us. It changed our lives. And those changes continue to abound throughout the district now as we have sought opportunities to build capacity from what we learned at Harvard within our teammates back here in Volusia County schools. The next slide demonstrates some of the evidence that you may see around these days. You might see some of the leadership styles evolving within our building leaders. We took the emotional intelligence, self-awareness activities of adaptive leadership, beginning on day one, learning that whatever our preferred leadership style is not necessarily the leadership style needed to solve every problem. A fatal failure for folks who depend upon the same leadership style to solve every leadership challenge. You'll see decision-making done differently with the 4-quadrant method, where teams of leaders work together within their building leadership teams to better analyze the root cause of the problems that we face and present the best solutions for them. Our meetings are more efficient. Elizabeth City taught us about MeetingWise. It's a very popular book. It is applicable throughout the business world, the legal world, and the educational world. And we follow MeetingWise for more targeted, efficient meetings. You'll be hearing very soon about retreat planning, where we develop the leadership of all of the members of our leadership team throughout the teaching, leading, and learning department as we roll out in this spring of 2025 the first ever TLL leadership retreat. And everyone will be seeing not only Dr. Balgobin's exciting videos, but culture videos from each and every one of our schools, as our schools build their culture and promote that culture through our communications department throughout our district. You'll see the evidence of the truth that we found at Harvard.
So, we would like to expand our knowledge and send a team of Volusia County leaders to Harvard again this summer. This time, we aim to attend the session titled Leading Culture Change, Strategies for School Improvement, taking place from June 16th through the 18th. This 3-day interactive program will be led by Harvard's Graduate School of Education professor, Ebony N. Bridwell Mitchell. The specific program activities will include school and team culture diagnostics, Harvard faculty-led sessions, interactive small group working sessions, individual self-assessment and reflection, and action planning work groups. By attending this program, our teams will gain a deeper understanding of core aspects of organizational culture, identify fundamental strategies for leading culture change, assess culture to target and prioritize areas for change, and develop a customized action plan, including specific strategies and implementation steps for transforming school and district culture. Continued participation in Harvard's professional learning programs create a critical mass of leaders with shared knowledge and vision. This allows us to bring back valuable insights to impact all of our school leaders in our district. Staying at the cutting edge translates to classroom improvements across our district. And I believe we're finishing with our exciting video filmed by Dr. Valle himself.
Volusia County Schools, it has been a true honor to have been able to participate in a week-long Harvard Institute with my colleagues from Volusia County. And I will tell you that the week-long institute has brought us together to be able to really reflect and look at the things that we're currently doing and what things we should be able to do to enhance so that our students in Volusia County can get and continue to get a world-class education?
Just being able to speak with leaders around the world, district school leaders around the world, gave me the opportunity to open my mind to different educational perspectives and be able to bring those strategies and those experiences back to Volusia County. I am excited and I am ready to go.
Really, the big takeaway for me was culture, and that culture eats strategy for breakfast basically any day. So that tells me as a leader that systemic changes need to be made, but at times in a school, but it's got to be done with the culture of the school in mind, and knowing where your building is, the pulse of your building, and then being very strategic and reflective on where you move your school from there to affect student learning outcomes.
I have two things that I definitely plan on taking away, and that is the consultancy protocol and also family engagement. This process has definitely developed me a closer connection to my calling, and I'm super excited.
One big takeaway from this week has been, am I involved? Am I an involved leader, or am I an engaged leader? And that was very powerful for me, because I want to be that engaged leader. It's part of being that servant leader. And to be that servant leader, you need to be engaged, but you also got to be able to be willing to put in the work.
So that now we have this ongoing network of individuals who can help us sharpen our skill set and bring things back to our teachers and our teams that we work with daily. This impact is just going to be so phenomenal and ongoing, ensuring that all of our students are achieving at high levels.
Sometimes as a principal, you're working as a solo, an individual, and it is so important to collaborate with others. That is one thing that I learned here at the Institute, because collaborating with others has made me grow so much.
We have been amongst these great leaders, not just from Harvard, not just from the U.S., but also from around the world, to facilitate, reflect, and help each other's practices so that we can go back to our home and do great things for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cologne.
Yeah, so I have a question. I know you guys are going to Futures tomorrow. Make sure you wear your Harvard shirts, look fancy, all that good stuff. I want to say thank you to Futures. I know they played a huge role in securing the funding so that we could send these folks to Harvard to ensure that there is that growth mindset. And what I love about it is they're encouraging a new group to go. And so I think that's amazing. That's wonderful. And again, thank you to Futures for stepping up. I know it took a few rounds of, hey, this is what we're doing, why we're doing, et cetera. And so thank you, thank you, thank you.
Dr. Bachman.
I will go last.
Oh, okay. Mrs. Goodrich.
I just want to thank you all for sharing the positive energy that you can feel from you guys, and your feedback of what you brought back is awesome. Special thank you to Futures for facilitating this. The best and most innovative companies in the world do this for their leadership, and so it's very amazing to see that we're doing it here in Volusia County. So thanks for sharing.
Ms. Prosper.
My comment is a little more directed, I guess. I can see why you're so excited, because this sounds like it was just outstanding. And I like that there's a follow-up too, sort of a next step to it. But I'm curious to know if there's some point where the effect of what you learned becomes quantifiable. Is there some way to have a sense of the outcomes that came from your training?
While we were preparing this, we asked the same question, and it became it became apparent while we were looking at our district data from all of our schools that participated. And Ms. Petrollo mentioned our synergy walks. And during those synergy walks, the acts of looking down at the student work and if what we're doing when we are bettering ourselves as leaders is transferring to the classroom and pushing all of ourselves as district leadership, school leadership, with one goal in mind, to increase student achievement and just put better product, right? Like, we are the product, putting that to the kids. And it did show, you can see it in our VBA data, at least at the secondary level, and even at elementary, you see that classroom achievement increasing.
So we definitely have tackled that quantifiable question. And at this time in the year, you heard WAFA talking a lot about how many principals, how many assistant principals, how many classroom walks, how many task alignment directed feedback were taken back to professional learning communities, and what those conversations were like and how they evolved from this experience. That's what's quantifiable now. What's quantifiable to continue to look for is the upward trend in the outcome data that we are very excited about mobilizing throughout the district and are looking forward to posting here in this first sunsetting of our first year back in bringing these lessons learned and implementing them, not just at each of the schools that we led, but throughout the divisions and throughout all of Volusia County schools.
Thank you. That is the most important goal, and I appreciate that's what we can watch as the outcome of all of this training. It sounds excellent, so thank you.
Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of you for going and doing that, because I know you all did a lot of work, and it's fun to hear you guys do homework too, because, we hear that from the kids, and I love to hear everything you all got out of it. I also really love the culture piece, and I can speak firsthand because I visited Creekside as one of my middle schools often, and I can tell all of you that Mr. Jackson, that's one of his big things is culture, and I think we have seen more of that, or at least I've heard more of our administrators speaking of how important the culture of the school is. And this is one of those cases, I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, because there are so many great leaders, so I don't know if you all were just all that great and then you went to Harvard, or if you're mediocre and then went to Harvard and came back great. But I can also say, speaking on the leadership and getting things done and just really that intentionality, Ms. Copeland has done amazing things for parents and students, and so all of you guys have done great things. I'm hoping that the next cohort is just, do we have the new cohort picked out yet?
Well, the proposal that was submitted to Futures Foundation that they looked at, we pretty much asked for 3 years. And these are all CEOs and business folks. Yeah. They understand the importance of return on your investment. Yeah. So yes, for next year, that's something that they have verbally agreed to, the team.
What, so a same size cohort going up there?
I believe it's about the same size, is it, or smaller, or slightly smaller? 15 total. Yeah.
All right, well, I love to hear that, and I love that it's a 3-year thing, because then we'll have a really big selection of people that really know what they're doing. So please all stay and don't take this knowledge somewhere else. But thank you all for doing that, and thanks once again to Futures, because without them, so many things wouldn't be possible, but this is one of those cases.
Absolutely, they're absolutely amazing. Yeah. So I want to thank the team for coming out here, because you know what, they're just not returning from a trip. They came back from this trip at the beginning of the year, and this is still a level of excitement that still permeates among these leaders here. But a couple of things I like to share, you probably don't know. Soon to be Dr. Reeser, when he returned from the trip, I received an email from him. And in the email, he told me how inspired he was with the learning that he's received, and that to the point that he's signing up for his doctorate. And I'm glad that personally also you were motivated, and it served you personally as well. So he is now undergoing his doctoral program of study. I will share with you that there was 2 programs personally for me and professionally that has impacted me the most. When I did my doctorate, that was a very rigorous program, and you're pushed to really learn and apply yourself. That was a rigorous program. But the second is when I was tapped in Orange County to attend the superintendency program with Harvard. And I will tell you, these guys, they work hard, because we didn't have any time off. From the time we got, like they shared with you, they're given all these assignments before that has to be read, completed beforehand. You get there, and it's every day, full days, and you receive a certificate at the end. But I'm glad that they were able to come back, but also look at our principal meetings and redesign our principal meetings, where it's not just our principals now just don't show up to a principal meeting just to receive information. They are learning as well. We're in the business of teaching and learning, and we should all be adapting to learning. So we have to model what we expect. But with that said, I want to congratulate the team. I want to thank them because really it takes an entire unit to move a village, right? And we've got the right unit here with the right mindset. So I want to thank you. I want to thank all of our teachers, everybody to be able to embark on this journey. But especially I want to thank, once again, Futures Foundation for understanding, for having a vision, and for embracing that vision with us here in VCS. So that's it, Chair.
So I have one final thing to add. I too want to thank Futures Foundation. I was sitting there last year when they were contemplating helping to fund this, and there was a lot of discussion. But as Dr. Balgobin said, those are community and business-based people, and they see the value in the opportunity that you had by going to Harvard. But I also want to clue in on one of the things that Holly Bailey said this evening, and even you said it in the video. At times you feel like you're alone. And so I think those of us here, we also feel that at times because you think you're out there and you're alone and it's like, who do I partner with? So I'm happy that when all of you went there, you were able to make connections, because the connection doesn't have to be someone within your own school or even within your own county. That's the one nice thing I can say about the Florida School Board Association and what they do for us as board members is they allow us to make those connections with other board members across the state. And even at times if we go to the national conferences, we make those with other board members that are across the United States. And sometimes you need that because there's no need to reinvent something. You can reach out and you can just ask, how do you do this? And there's nothing better than to learn from others that are around you. And so I am so appreciative that each and every one of you gave up a part of your summer this past year and you went there. And I'm sure, if your students understood that you had homework too during the summertime, that they and your teachers and staff would even appreciate that more. And I'm looking forward to seeing the next cohort that goes from Future. So thank you. So at this time, it is 5:44. We're going to take a break. We will be back in here at 6 p.m. for public input. If you have not yet filled out a card, this is your chance to fill out a card. Once public input starts, we will no longer accept any cards. Thank you.
Food. I was so hungry. I was so hungry.
Welcome back. At this time, it is 6:04 p.m. and we are going to move into public input. I have 3 cards. Are there any more cards for public input for the 6 p.m. time? Okay, please note that once I call the first speaker up, we will not accept any more cards for this time. So if you haven't filled out one, you will not be speaking during this time. So for the audience, I need you to be respectful of those that are speaking. So there is no talking, no cell phones, no making clapping sounds or anything. If you are in agreement with what someone is saying, you're more than welcome to put a thumbs up or do jazz hands. If you disagree with what they're saying, you can put a thumbs down, but we will respect the speakers. In the order they were received, this is the way you will speak. The first speaker tonight will be Elizabeth Albert, followed by Christopher Gibbs, and then Lakeisha Bird. So Ms. Albert, please come forward. Welcome.
All right, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Balgobin, members of the audience. I'd like to speak with you tonight about the apparent restructuring of the ESE department. So there's 2 big changes that are apparently taking place. Number 1, the elimination of 30 school-based IEP facilitator positions, and then changes to the expectations for district program specialists. So the problem here is that both of these ESE professional groups, the professionals in these groups, have been told that these changes will be made for the 25-26 school year, and it's already a done deal. So let's start with the IEP support. Let's start with the IEP facilitators. 30 positions have been eliminated and 5 new student staffing specialists will be created. So help me understand this math here. We've got 30 folks that are currently doing this work, and we're going to shift the work of 30 people into 5 new positions. You got to make that make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I reached out for a clarification on the expectations of work for these new student staffing specialists, and I was told that they would have at least 450 meetings over a 150-day period. Well, on paper, that might look like it works out and might seem reasonable. However, when you speak to the individuals who are impacted, they've brought up some questions that I'd like to share. Have considerations included time for testing, time for trainings, time for the required audits that they have to do, suspension reviews, what happens after 10 days of suspension, manifestation meetings, meetings with attorneys and advocates, and human needs like being sick, and taking leave when you need to. So the decision to eliminate these positions was made without the input of those whom it will affect. So now let's shift to the program specialists and talk about them. Again, it seems that this decision, a decision has been made to move the ESE department to the former Terry T. Small building, the old building. This is going to create a negative impact on the employees who work and live on the west side of our district. Those folks are currently housed in portables at Deltona High School. So again, in speaking with them, there has been no discussion about how this will impact their mileage, and they've been told that they need to move on the 2nd week of April. So they're concerned about testing, they're concerned about IEPs that they have scheduled, and how they're going to support their teachers and students. So, tonight there was a discussion about culture, and I couldn't help but notice that part of that discussion referenced having expert discussions, and so I would argue that the experts around these decisions are the district placement specialists, program specialists, and the IEP facilitators. So a suggestion to truly begin the work of improving the culture within VCS would be to convene a meeting with these groups of people and talk to them about their concerns, listen to their questions, and seek their input on how to navigate these changes. So I'm hoping that after tonight, that meeting will be convened. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Gibbs, and next will be Lakeisha Bird. Welcome, Mr. Gibbs.
Okay. Good evening, members of the Volusia County School Board. My name is Christopher Gibbs, and I am a 5th grade teacher at Torrey T. Small Elementary School. I stand here before you tonight respectfully to request a postponement of the termination decision regarding Ms. Lakeisha Bird, and to ask that the board conduct a thorough and impartial review of the circumstances surrounding this matter. I understand that personnel decisions are complex and often confidential. However, believe that in the interest of fairness and due process, a delay in this final decision is warranted. It is often said that a school culture is evident if the school continues to function despite the departure of one or more of its members. In fact, leaders here tonight presented information about culture eating strategy. With that being said, I ask everyone to pray for us and pray for Torrey T. Small Elementary School. The culture at our school is shattered, and this just furthered the damage. I have observed Ms. Bird's consistent positive contributions in the educational community, both in the school and in the Volusia County School District. Yesterday in my class, we received a new special area schedule. Usually when my students find out they're going to media, they're excited. Well, yesterday, first day back from spring break, when they were informed they were going to media, they were devastated. Why? Another day full of cartoons, worthless read-work passages. Oh wait, also running around playing tag like it's recess. Our beautiful, lovely, magnificent media center that is in all the wonderful social media platforms is nothing. Nothing. Our culture, we have no culture at Torrey T. Small Elementary School. We need Miss Bird. Our school needs Miss Bird. Our district needs Miss Bird. There has been a little Band-Aid on our problem yesterday, or the problem at our school. I go pick up my kids from media, and they have books in their hand. Some of them do. Well, the district is now sending media specialists, traveling media specialists, to let kids check out books. This just furthers the problem. That is not culture. I am not here to pass judgment or challenge the board's authority. My sole purpose is to advocate for the fairness and for a complete review. I believe that a brief postponement would allow the Volusia County School Board to gather all relevant information, ensure that all parties have been heard, and make a well-informed and just decision. And please do not come at me saying a review has been performed. No one came to our school. No one conducted interviews. There has not been a formal interview, maybe a one-sided professional standards review, but not one from the board. I urge the board to consider the potential consequences of this hasty decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mrs. Lakeisha Bird. Welcome.
I should have went before Mr. Gibbs. I can't even say what I want to say. But I do want to, when I came here, what I wanted to say, I can't even speak on that because I do want to speak on my parents and my students, their voice. And I do believe that their voice need to be heard. And if anybody get on social media today, you will see from parents, from former parents, they all have tagged every single one of you. They've all had, they have spoken. And as the board, I'm just asking you, if you don't want to hear my side, if you don't want to hear me, at least hear the community, hear the students, hear the parents. And I want to say, I heard one of the principals say involved or engage. And that stuck with me because engage is something I worked hard to be. Also, one of the principals mentioned about parent nights, and I'm trying to figure out what parent nights were they talking about, where there's two parents. One of the most crowded parent nights was a parent night that Ms. Bird held, parent to kid night. So I don't know what community, what culture they're talking about, but I know for a fact it is shattered. When you all came out to my beautiful book tasting for the book vending machine reveal, that book vending machine wasn't even paid for at that time. When the commissioner asked for the invoice showed it was not paid. This is what I'm talking about. This is the thing that this is all personal, and I hope you listen to Mr. Gibbs or whoever else has spoken to you to please look further into what has happened. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the 6 p.m. public input time. We are now moving on to item 18.01, request to advertise proposed amendments to School Board Policy 707 fundraising. Are there any comment cards on this item? All right. There is still a public input time at the end of the board meeting, and you're more than welcome to go get a yellow card and fill out for that time. So we have 2 standalone items, and then we will reach the end of the meeting. All right, so board members, Dr. Balgobin, you have a recommendation?
I'd like to ask Mr. Cease, our CFO, Chief Financial Officer. He will come forward and share with you about the proposed amendments to School Board Policy 707 regarding fundraising.
Good afternoon, Board, Superintendent. Well, first of all, thank you, because this came to you back in December when I wasn't here. And I didn't get a chance at that time to actually do the rewrite, and it is finance related. So anytime I get a chance to rewrite one of our board policies to make it more fluid and make more sense, I'm gonna do that. So that's my attempt here. So originally what was submitted to you, we're adding sponsorships to this board policy, so we're bringing in, we have fundraisers and sponsorships, but with that said, I'm in this policy now, I'm defining what is fundraising, what is sponsorship, how do you plan, what's the proposed planning and accounting for that? Also, what's the financial procedures we need to follow for that? And just to let you know, when we do a fundraising activity or sponsorship, there's a requirement that we need board approval, especially on these sponsorships, because I don't want the board blindsided, if there's something that they don't want to accept or enter into. So that's built in here as well. And every fundraising and sponsorship activity has a project number attached to it, so we can follow the receipt of those funds and how we're using those funds, so we can always report back to the board at any time. So that's really what I kind of clarified and added to this agenda item. Thank you.
Mr. Cologne?
So I appreciate the changes that have been made to this agenda, and I think there's a step 2, and it kind of will reiterate what I said the last time. I think it's great that we are delineating that only formal ways should be used, excluding Venmo, Zelle, Cash App. But I also still believe that we need to provide an alternative that's easy as those are. Whether it's creating a school district Cash App business account, there are those options. Zelle also has the option. So while I think it's great for the employees to cover themselves by not using these apps for fundraising, I also think it's equally as important that we have a viable alternative that, almost quick, that will allow them to continue to solicit support from the community, who's very willing to do it, especially when it's easy. One of our service standards in my organization is make it easy. If you can make it easy, they'll spend it all day long. And so I would continue to encourage us to do that. But I also believe that this is going to protect our employees from someone saying that they may possibly have used their personal accounts and all that. That always made me very nervous. So thank you, and I will be supporting this tonight.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just had a question, probably for Dr. Evans, more than Mr. Cease. Under restrictions and prohibitions, B, the raffles. So there will be no more raffles at all? Because that's a huge fundraiser. It's an easy fundraiser. So I just was curious if there was like a legal reason why.
No, we typically don't do raffles. So I'm not sure where that's coming from, especially, this is on the internal accounts, on the school internal funds policy, we don't typically allow raffles for fundraising activities.
Okay, so this is for, I just wanted to clarify because it's fundraising sponsorship activities conducted by school-based organizations or outside organizations. And then it says no, so we've never done raffles? That's
Yeah,
never been a
we
thing?
don't, per old board policy, we never allowed raffles.
Okay. Okay, I just want to double check on that. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
And I think,
Yes, Mr. Cologne?
to Ms. Thompson's point, I think that boosters, alumni associations, and PTAs have a different laterality than officially funded school fundraisers. These are the ones that are coming from the school, not from these ancillary groups that are audited individually.
Because those funds go into separate accounts that they have set up, they do not go through Volusia County Schools.
Correct.
Right,
Yes, they're separate 501c3.
right. Any other questions? Dr. Balgobin, you have a recommendation?
So I want to make sure, do the recommendation, we'll see. I recommend granting the authority to advertise the proposed amendments to School Board Policy 707 fundraising
And sponsorships.
and
Sponsorships.
sponsorships.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Do I have someone that would like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have someone that would like to second that?
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion?
I want to know what you're thinking.
I'm going to ask a question because
I think,
I do hear you and what you're saying, and that's something that we need to really look and work on so that we can add to the policy. I agree with you, but I think the policy needs to move forward for now. Because there will be lots of events taking place as we're nearing school end, and I don't want to miss a beat on that.
So do we have the ability to make this effective date? I would hate to ruin somebody's plans if they're already in the grind. And I get it that the initial, the policy we have now from 1972
Correct.
probably states the same, but I would hate to, so could we make the effective date of this policy? We're advertising now, but I wasn't the motion maker, but to make the effective date of this May 31st or June 1st, so that as to allow time for transition and/or preparation, not ruining any current anything. Can we add that for as an effective date? Which will come with the next vote if it's.
Mr. Cease.
Yeah, I was just going to state, it shouldn't affect anything. Really what this policy is doing is just adding sponsorships. Nothing has really changed on the fundraising, and I just further clarified and broke out and made it a little bit more easier to follow on how we're accounting for it.
So I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a teacher who wants to take her kids for an end of the year field trip in a limousine to Red Lobster, okay? And anybody who knows who I'm talking about knows who I'm talking about. And she does a great job, and she throws it out there, and everybody gets on Zelle, and boom, 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 and somehow the whole community supports that cause. Not having the alternative right now would not make that easy. And the school doesn't have a solution for how they could do that right now. So I think that would give us time, if we make for an effective date June 1st, that would have no impact on anything current, and then can move forward, as it also puts a little bit of pressure on Mr. Cease to find a solution so that next year, because again, we want to continue to allow, to make it easy for the community to participate in our schools. I mean, like I said, I'm guilty. I send it on Zelle, send it on Cash App, hey, you're doing this for your classroom, I want to help you, here you go. So I think, again, I saw the deep breath, and so we want to, I think if we make it effective date June 1st, then we know we're not going to ruin any existing plans of fundraising, et cetera, and we'll give enough time for folks to make alternative plans to collect funds and do whatever they need to do.
What? You want to say something, or may I say something?
No, I'm done, thank you.
What do you think about what Mr. Cologne
Oh,
said?
no,
Because it's
I,
going to be you, the
hearing what,
engineer.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing what Mr. Cologne's saying. I strongly support his position on this.
Right, I have something to add to that, having been a former classroom teacher and the laws that govern field trips. You have to have permission from parents on a field trip, on a Volusia County School field trip form to take their children on anything, whether it be a limo, a school bus, a van, a car, anything. So I've got principals sitting out here, all right? And what you're describing, unless the correct process has
Oh,
been.
no, they follow it. It's during the school day. It's a field trip.
Okay. So currently, the way the field trips are, though, there's a process in which to pay. So if we're paying in a different way, we may be breaking our own policies that we have on field trips. And notice how many times field trips even come up on the consent agenda that we have to approve. Because any field trip that leaves the state of Florida, we have to approve for that. So I'm not opposed to looking into a business way to accept funds, but there are ways to accept funds. I just want to make sure we're not breaking rules, because the moment somebody's in an accident with kids and we have not followed the process we have, we're in trouble.
No, these are school events happening as field trips that are end of school year party. These are formal events. So again, your concern will be quenched on June 1st when this policy goes live. Then we know this is what we're doing, this is what we're sticking to.
Can I make a comment, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah, just for clarification, on school field trips, in your specific example, we actually use the focus system. So that activity is put in there, and then the parents just pay online through the focus system, or they can pay by cash if they want to go to the bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper can collect it, or
That brings up another point.
or check,
So our schools have, and we've gone through this, they no longer take cash. When I want to donate $100, I have to pay $103 to pay the vendor fee, because through Focus, the person who's paying pays the vendor fee, which is unheard of. I mean, you don't go to Sam's Club and they tack on 2.5%. No, it's added to the price. And so that's a whole different story. Again, these are formal. I just think, again, I would hate between now and then to pull the rug out from under folks. And so that's just my thought. So I didn't make the motion, but.
Mrs. Brosmer.
I think for my own clarification, are you suggesting a different way to pay or an additional way to pay?
A different way to, so right now we use Focus, is their formal way. I'll give you an example. This is cringeworthy. When I go to a school and there's FFA, the alumni, right? They're not Volusia County schools, they're their own organization. They use Square. So I can walk up, double tap, hold my phone there, pay for it, that's great. When our special needs students who have the tent where they make shirts and hats and all of that, when I go to buy a shirt, I have to log into Focus, I have to put in my address, my phone number, my name, who is the student I'm supporting, and there's a generic one. Then I have to find an amount of something they're selling that's the same price, because they may not have that exact item. Click on that, go to the credit card page, put in my credit card information as if I was doing it at home. They don't have a point of sale system available as of yet. And so it's not easy. It's not, I mean, it takes longer to buy the t-shirt than it does to buy lunch for 20 people. And so that's what I'm talking about. Yes, we do have a system for payment. We do not have an easy one. We don't have a point of sale system. And some of our schools have even said to parents, and I get it, we don't take cash, do everything on Focus. Well, when they do it on Focus, they have to pay 3% merchant fee. When they pay 3% merchant fee on the $1,300 trip to Washington, D.C., that's a lot of money. I get it. The school would rather not have to deal with the cash and all the fundraising things that come along with that. But, so that's why I think we just need to find, and I appreciate you, Dr. B, saying the need to find something easy so that after June, if the teacher wanted to, and there are commercial accounts, if the school wanted to have a Cash App account, that families could, and that money could be accounted for and can go into the correct account and can, something as simple as that. So that's my thought.
Dr. Kuhn is here because when you had mentioned that to me, actually I shared with Dr. Kuhn. Is there
So
something?
I just wanted to mention, this is an ongoing development project right now between ITS Software and Systems and Focus developers. It is not a simple, like, just flip a switch or, fix this little thing. It's a total rewrite of how their charging system goes into all the budgetary modules. And obviously, it's something you have to get perfectly right or you'll mess up all the accounting. So it's not something that they take lightly. But they are working on it. I just had a meeting this morning about the progress being made in that area, but it'll be this summertime before it's been fully tested and that we really have the system up and running. We actually already have credit card scanners, but we did a pilot test of them. And that fee that Mr. Cologne mentioned it's the hang up. Okay, we need to be able to charge that fee to whatever account we want to charge it to. But right now, that fee is only charging to the exact place that it goes. And we want to be able to charge that to a district account or any other account so that we don't have to say, oh, tack on this little money, and do these workarounds so that it can just be put into the cost like most businesses do. So that's what we're working on. But like I said, we ask for your patience. It's going to be a little while before we have that ready to go.
This is from a while back when we had discussed this.
Mrs. Goodrich.
He answered my question. My question was going to be, how hard is it to come up with a system that's easier to use and that's not, that sounds terrible. I would never buy anything.
It's hard,
You do it for the children.
I mean, obviously, but
You do it for, no, when you're standing there, you're literally doing it. Trust me, I was texting them like, you see what I have to do? You do it for the children. You do it to support the cause. You do it because the hat looks really cool but it's painful and it's hard. How do I look at this teacher who's saying, I'm trying to teach my kids skills and, the point of sale system doesn't really, it's tough. So,
is Focus an external vendor?
yeah, Focus is our everything vendor from student.
Maybe that needs a new look. If they can't be modernized.
It can be, yeah.
They're gonna be. He said it.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a moment. At no time, there are reasons why there are rules for field trips, okay? There are reasons why when you accept money, and we used to accept cash, and we've always accepted checks. Cash makes it a little bit more dangerous, all right? I'm being honest with you. And every day, you were to turn it into the bookkeeper. You weren't supposed to collect it over a week and hold on to it. I have seen where people have said the money has been stolen out of their classroom, and they've ended up in trouble. I have seen where money has been mismanaged. I mean, teachers have lost their teaching certificates over money. All right, being mismanaged. I will tell you right now, personally, I would never give out a private or my personal Cash App, Venmo, or anything and tell parents to send that to me, because we have cut out the rules and what should be happening. And then I could say, the parent could say, I paid you for my child to go on that field trip. And I could say, no, you didn't. and they have no proof of that.
Yeah, but they're not using it for that.
Well, and also I think Mr. Colon was suggesting that we create like a cash app for the school district.
No, I'm fine with that.
I'm not saying there's, so let's say
already
she
saying
wants to,
people are
let's say a
using their
teacher wants
private.
$800 to cover the limousine. She puts it out there and community folks cover that $800. Now she's got a limousine, which still goes through the field trip process and all of that. And it covers the cost of the limousine for the kids to be able to go to wherever it is they're going on their field trip. So it's not the individual parent paying the teacher for this. It's the ability to collect from anybody across the world. And we do it on the platforms. What's it called? There's that platform. Well, no, there's GoFundMe, but then there's one for education that does the same thing. It charges a fee. It came out of Orange County, where people across the world are able to donate. And at the end of the year, we have one teacher. She had thousands of dollars worth of stuff. She put a pitch on there. I forgot what it's called. No, it's donate to Donors Choose. Donors Choose. And so at the end of the year, someone who wanted to spend money, it's a non-for-profit, so they're able to go in there and say, okay, I found this school in Deltona. They want to collect $1,000. And so what they did was they would pay, because it's tax deductible at the end of the year, they would fund all of these projects. And if you go on there, you could find it. And basically, that money, I don't even know where that money goes. Does it go to the individual teacher? That definitely doesn't go to the school, because it brought up the question, well, do the things that they purchase from Donors Choose at the school where they've pitched it for, do those things belong to the school now, or do they belong to the teacher? Well, that brought up the eyelash, and we had to say, okay, come on, you collected this for here. We're glad that you've moved on, but this stuff needs to stay because you used this school for that purpose. So again, there are things out there for this. There's alternatives, there's point of sale, there's different things we can do. I just don't know that would, I would hate to rain on the parade between now and the end of the year, not giving people a chance to make other plans. But I didn't make the motion.
Donors Choose does collect information from you.
Oh, yeah, I do.
So someone's individual Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, whatever, there is no collection of information.
Yes, there is.
I mean, it's a name.
No.
Phone number too.
I mean, it's a phone number. If you ask me for my bill, I'd have to bring it to you. I mean, I'm just saying, times have changed. This is not something that has to do with when we did it in 1985. This is today, this is now, this is you walk up to the store, you don't have your wallet, you go click, click, and you pay. You go to someone's house, you buy something, you go to Zelle, you send it to them, it's there.
So for the teacher that's getting the limo, I hear your concern is that it's the teacher getting the cash or the Venmo or whatever. How are they doing that now without violating the policy? That's my first question. And then my second question would be, rather than, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade either, if a parent was collecting it.
That would be okay.
That would be okay.
What I'm saying, as much as we'd like to think that's why I think we just need to find a way to make it easy.
Yeah. But I hear what you're saying because
I'm not opposed to finding a way that the money would come in to the school or to the district in the appropriate channels. Okay, years ago, and yes, I'm going way back. We used to, like when we wanted to sell those little scholastic books that would come home and you send the form, parents could send in checks or cash or whatever for that. Well, they went to the point that the parent had to submit the money to the school so the school could ensure that it was being paid, because there were times where teachers got the money and then they didn't pay the bill for the book. I mean, I have seen it, guys, okay? I have seen situations where people take money, okay, and they don't start out with an ill intention. But like, let's just say you said the limo's $800. Well, what if the person gets $1,500 put into their personal cash app, whatever? What are they doing with the $700, and how's it being accounted for so that we don't legally have problems? Because what did I do today when I got here? Hand over another lawsuit to Dr. Evans' office. Every time we turn around, we have lawsuits that are taking money away from our children's education.
And that's my point. I think this policy will address that right there, is the fact that now this will prohibit the use of any of that. Because that's what this policy says, prohibited, done, boom.
Then I don't want to, I'm not going to amend my motion because I'm not going to open that up.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. So, with all that being said, if we were to extend this until the end of the school year, because I do think that's reasonable, because there's only a couple months, this is going to go out for 30 days to be advertised anyway. That leaves us with like a month of school, which is a huge fundraising time. Like, I get that. Do you anticipate us being able to have a point of sale available for the next school year?
Well, this policy does not preclude what's going on in software and systems. You know, you could implement this policy, and all that would happen is we would develop a method for credit cards to be able to be taken and the charge to go to a district account. It doesn't open the door for like Square or, you know, other kinds of things. We'd be using district-owned card readers attached to a district account. So this isn't quite as open as, you know, some of the things you've discussed.
But if this is approved, will it stop parents from being able to use Cash App and collect funds? I think that's.
Well, they shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
So the answer to my question then is yes?
Yeah, because again, this is fundraising activities for school internal accounts. That's what this board policy was originally written for, and that's the only thing that we're really modifying here. So all of that's done through your Focus financial system. So the parents, when they pay in the funds, they should be either putting it through the Focus system or depositing it with the school bookkeeper.
Is it true that this is for school-sponsored accounts? Is that correct?
Yeah, this is for school internal
But this does not preclude school
employees,
groups and organizations, PTA, they can still do.
Just as long as they're approved by the principal to operate on their campus, yeah.
And they're a 501c3 and they have
They would-
outside checking accounts set up.
And it's the principal's responsibility to make sure that they're operating within those guidelines, so.
Because we've also had issues with those accounts in the past and people have stolen funds. So there are checks and balances. Typically, things such as that require 2 signatures on a check if they're going to pay for something. So there are processes that need to be followed. I do not want to see a teacher lose their teaching certificate over something like this. I don't want to see another lawsuit because someone mismanaged funds. So, Ms. Goodrich.
So if we delayed this to June 1st or whatever day, and we're all on record having this conversation, knowing that we are now opening us up, would that not open us up to potential lawsuits if there was money mismanagement between now and then, done in a way that we've discussed? All right, that's why I'm not going to amend. Sorry, I was kind of rude, but.
Would you restate?
There's a motion and a second. We can vote.
Sorry, that's right, we've got. All right, any further discussion? All right, so the motion that we are voting on at this time is a request to advertise proposed amendment to School Board Policy 707, fundraising and sponsorships. Mrs. Goodrich made the motion and Mr. Cologne seconded it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Did everyone vote?
Yep.
Okay, it passes unanimously to be advertised. Thank you.
Madam Chair, the only thing I would ask now that we've passed this and potentially we'll be passing this before the end of the year is that we provide guidance, because the reality is I think what we're really talking about is policy and modern day and practical practice. And so if it is the intent of the board that these Zells, Cash App not be used, we have to make that very clear to our employees so that they know that, because of course, once the policy goes live, then it's enforceable.
And I would agree and also say we need to make sure that we're using a vendor that is going to be modernized. And I don't know enough about this vendor to say if they can or cannot. Just that is where the world is going, and we
If,
have to be forward thinking.
if parents can't walk up to our schools, double tap and pay,
Yeah.
we are,
Missing the opportunity.
I mean, I'll give you an example, and I know you guys are tired of hearing about me. I went to a concert the other night. It was kind of embarrassing for the person on the other side. They were selling brownies. So I said, my wife wasn't there. I'd say, I'd love to have one of these brownies. So she packs it up, and I said, where do I send it to? And she says, no, we only take cash. So you know what she did? She packed it up and put it back where it was and said, sorry, sir, we're not going to send. I kind of stood there like, I'm good for it, I promise. But she really didn't sell me the brownie. And so if you think about, and what was interesting is it was an auditorium full of people and nobody was buying the baked goods. Well, you ask yourself, well, why? Because who's got cash anymore? So that group missed out on that fundraising because I didn't have cash. So anyways, just a thought. Thank you.
All right, then we are moving on to item 18.02.
May I share something with
Yes,
Ms. Goodrich?
please go ahead.
Ms. Goodrich, Focus is an educational program. It's designed for educational institution. It's part of our new ERP implementation. It's to enhance focus. And I will share with you that they do customization. So for example, when I was in Osceola County, we had Focus there, and we wanted it redesigned for our choice and charter, where when applications are submitted for the different programs, right, where it goes into a priority listing and a secondary and so forth. So we worked with them. It took like 2-3 months. We worked with them, and they were able to do that customization for us. So to Mr. Colon's point, I know I heard about the brownies and all that. Mr. Colon did call me.
Drives me nuts.
And we did talk to Matt. So Matt has been working with them. It's very, very promising. It's going to happen. It's going to take some time. And it will be a program that we already have. So it'll be seamless to use. Yeah.
All right, then we're moving on to item 18.02. At this moment, I have 4 public input cards. Any additional cards for item 18.02? Then we're no longer accepting any cards. So this is the request to advertise proposed amendments to School Board Policy 320, which is media selection of print and non-print materials. The order that I have, the cards were turned in because they're numbered. I'm going to go ahead and read all 4 names. The first person can make their way forward, and the second person can be ready. Miss Jennifer Kelly, Miss Christine Cyrier, Christine Cyrier reading for Sheila and Larry Zinkerman, and then Jennifer Maldonado. No, is it Marinaccio? Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so Miss Jennifer Kelly is up first.
Not here, next.
Okay. Next is Christine Cyrier.
Good evening. I want to acknowledge the positive changes in your advertised revised draft of Policy 320. It's encouraging to see the requirement for the objection form to be completed during the initial principal meeting if material removal is considered. The clear statement regarding books remaining in circulation during review, unless the removal is legally required, is also appreciated. And the decision to allow public comment during district review committee meetings is a significant step towards transparency. Thank you. I really do appreciate the progress made, but to ensure Policy 320 is fully equitable and transparent, I believe there are still points to address. First, regarding the criteria for selection and management of materials section, it is unnecessary to add the verbiage that principals may remove materials not meeting their school's community needs or violating Florida law, because the preceding selection of materials section already designates the principal's responsibility for compliance oversight. It's stated twice. This addition really does seem redundant, and I fear that it potentially creates an avenue for bypassing an established review process. So what is the intended purpose of adding it to this section? Some of you may remember back in 2023, the board added the statement to that previous section about principals' responsibility for overseeing the library. We wanted to acknowledge its implicit nature under state law. It was very important. So my question, it really raises a lot of questions for me about the trust that you place in your certified media specialists. These professionals have special training for collection development, and their role is clearly defined with existing framework. So by adding this extra spot, it feels like it's not really fostering a collaborative, efficient process because it's redundant. Furthermore, the advertised procedure only allows appeals for book removal, which overlooks the rights of parents who support a book's presence. A fair and accessible procedure must allow appeals for both removal and retention to ensure due process for everyone. Finally, to enhance transparency, I urge you to request the district office implement a system for maintaining and publishing records of objections. I feel like this is really essential to building trust with all of your stakeholders. I really do feel that we all have the same interest in mind. We really want to strengthen Policy 320 to best serve our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you're going to read on behalf of Sheila and Larry Zinkerman.
Our names are Sheila and Larry Zinkerman, and as concerned citizens of Volusia County, we urge the school board to amend Instructional Policy Number 320 to ensure fairness in the book challenge process. Currently, book challengers can appeal Volusia County Schools' decision to keep certain titles, but public school families cannot appeal the removal of certain titles from shelves. Here are 3 reasons we need a fairness clause. 1, balance. Ensures both sides have an equal voice in book challenges. 2, transparency. Promotes open and fair decision making. 3, integrity. Builds trust in the school district's policies. A simple policy adjustment like adding language that allows appeals for both removal and retention would correct the current imbalance. Ensuring fairness strengthens our district's commitment to open discourse and equitable decision-making. We ask the board to adopt a Fairness Clause amendment to uphold the values of fairness, inclusion, and academic freedom in our schools. Thank you for your time and service to our community.
Thank you. Jennifer Marinaccio. Welcome.
Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Balgobin, I didn't intend to speak tonight, but as I'm reading over this, and if you're familiar with me, I love my statutes and my policies and reading over those. I'm just here as a community member, longtime volunteer, not representing anyone but myself. In reading over this policy, I'm glad to see this possibly coming to a close. Years we've all heard about this as sometimes even larger things have loomed, and we've spent talking about this. At least it isn't uniforms. But on the second to last page, Section 5, Section C, district level review, it does seem to contradict itself and would be cause for even more discussions as anything should come up. And I know we all just want to be able to provide our children with age-appropriate, educational, enriching material. So maybe we can go ahead and look at this. In Section 3 in the District Review Committee, it does say that recommendations shall be to discontinue use for any grade level or age group district-wide for which the committee determines such use is inappropriate or unsuitable, which would indicate, let's say, if it's something that someone objected to at a middle school, but it is appropriate for high school, that would be absolutely fine. Same elementary, but maybe, should be available to our 7th and 8th graders and not our 1st graders. That makes absolute sense. And yet, then we go so far in the policy, which may be an oversight, or I could be misreading. In Section 5, it does say, after the first sentence, the complainant shall be informed. It then proceeds to say, if a title is determined to be in violation of Florida statute by the District Level Review Committee, then the title shall be removed from all Volusia County schools. And I think that contradiction sets up anyone who may object with an unreasonable expectation, since previously it does state that if the District Review Committee makes a recommendation, it'll be reviewed and then recommended that it is removed from any not age-appropriate schools, but maintained in the age-appropriate schools. So I just wanted to point that out. I know we all are looking at down the home stretch of this. So if that is something that is going to present an issue later on, perhaps that maybe this is not necessarily ready in its wording to be advertised as is. Thank you.
Okay, that's the final input. Dr. Balgobin, do you have a recommendation?
Any discussion?
Well, we'll discuss once we hear your recommendation. Discussion opens after we have a motion and a second.
The recommendation is to grant the authority to advertise the proposed amendments to School Board Policy 320, which is media selection of print and non-print materials.
Okay. No. Desiree is here to do a presentation.
Along with Dr. Evans.
Along with Dr. Evans on this. Thank you for your recommendation. We'll hold for the vote till we've seen the presentation. Welcome, Ms. Dr. Rubinski.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairwoman Haynes, Superintendent Dr. Balgobin, and school board members. It's not necessarily a presentation. I'm just going to summarize some of the changes that are proposed in the policy that Dr. Evans and I have been working on that has gathered feedback from stakeholders, numerous stakeholders, in the attempts to revise this policy to strengthen it and further clarify some aspects of it that we really wanted to make sure were clarified and clear for anyone who's reading it. So I'm just going to go through several of those clarifications, and then if you have questions at the end, Dr. Evans and I are happy to entertain those. The first thing is we want to assure everyone there are a lot of Florida statutes that revolve around books and book selection. This policy, as it is written and as it is proposed, is in compliance with Florida statute. There's nothing in it that violates the law or potentially violates the law at this time. A couple of things that we tried to add to the policy at the very beginning are definitions for clarification. These are definitions that come from the Florida statute and are here for reference throughout the policy. We updated language for consistency, specifically in the challenge/objection procedures. There were several synonyms used for concern, challenge, objection, when in the end they all were referencing the same thing. So we used the language of the statute, which is objection or objected to, and tried to make that clear throughout the policy so we weren't using different words to mean the same thing. The next thing is the elimination of the school level review committee. This adjustment was made to really support schools. This is a burdensome process for schools when we are processing several objections across multiple schools. So this supports the schools and takes some of that time and effort burden from them and allows for consistency across the district. So in that process of removing the school level committee, we needed to make some adjustments to the district level process to make sure that it encompasses all of those pieces. So in order for a title to make it to a district level review committee, there are 3 different ways that could happen. So to start in the process, it always starts at the school where there is a title that it is objected to. A principal needs to know there is a concern about a title at his or her school. So from there, the goal is that the principal and the complainant are able to discuss their concern and resolve the issue. Sometimes that happens and sometimes that doesn't happen. So in the case that the principal agrees with the complainant and the decision is to remove the title, then that is automatically going to trigger a district level review committee so that we can be consistent about a decision across the district. A principal has the autonomy and the authority to discontinue the use of a book at their school. However, if he or she chooses to do that, we need to look at it to see if this is in violation of the statute, and if so, then we need to make sure that that is consistent across the district. So the second way for a title to make it to the district level review committee would be if the principal at the school says, this title does not violate the statute, we are going to keep it in our library, and at that point, the complainant may file their specific material objection form and send it to the district media supervisor, who would process the district level review committee for that. And finally, if a complainant is making an objection that is concerning other students than their own. So when a parent comes and they have a concern about something their own child is reading or has access to that is different than if a parent has a concern for all children at all schools. So that if we're talking about all schools, then that would come to the district level review committee as well, so that decision is a district-wide decision and not at individual schools. So during that district level review process, the proposal is for a standing review committee at each level, an elementary, a middle, and a high school standing review committee. The makeup of that committee it has remained the same in the policy, which is this board or several members of this board worked hard to come up with those specific members. The only adjustment made to that was instead of principal, an administrator is, so it could be a principal or an assistant principal or even a district administrator. So that standing committee would meet and review any books that were brought forth to that committee. And it is already in the statute, but we clearly outlined it in the policy, is that is an open meeting that is open to the public, and making sure that in that, to make this a fair and equitable process, that anyone can come to that meeting, and there is 15 minutes dedicated to public input for or against removal of that material. So anyone who wants to share their opinion or their thoughts had that opportunity to do that. And then finally, at the very end of the policy is the option after 3 years for a title to be looked at again by a school media advisory committee. If a school is looking to add that book back to their collection, they would follow the procedures that are already in the policy for doing that.
And just for clarification, could you share what's the makeup of the committee?
Sure, absolutely. So the makeup of the committee, there are currently 7 members on that committee. A principal, which the revision is to administrator, a media specialist, a curriculum supervisor or an instructional staff member, and 4 parents or citizens who are not employed by Volusia County Schools.
And how will the committee be selected?
So the proposal is that the committee is volunteers that will be randomly selected. So for citizens and parents, we would communicate through district communication tools. We have Focus that goes out to all parents. We have social media that those would be advertised. And then once we have a pool of volunteers, we would do a random selection on, we can record it on Teams. You drop everybody into a randomizer and you pull out the first, how many ever committee members that we need. We do it, that is how we select our instructional materials committee members currently.
Anything else?
I just want to say, as Dr. Rubinski stated, this has been a very intense review and trying to come up with something to present to the board. As you know, we have presented this policy, or I have attempted to present this policy at least 3 times. And every time we've tried to present this policy, there was always some additional information that we thought may have been pertinent to adding to the policy for clarity, for equity, for transparency, and also to further strengthen the policy. We've been given a lot of feedback, And what we have tried to do is we've listened to all the feedback and we've tried to come up with a policy that includes information from everybody that could further strengthen this policy so that we can always do what's in the best interest of our students. Now, we know that there perhaps is maybe some litigation or legislation out there that might affect this policy this year, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. And as you know, every year legislation could come and affect this policy. So if it doesn't this year, it might come next year. But our main purpose was to come up with a policy that will be equitable and transparent and something that follows the law. And as far as I know and understand, there is nothing in this policy currently that violates Florida law.
Thank you. So you've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. You've heard Dr. Rubinski review the changes from the policy we're currently under, and you've heard Dr. Evans. Do I have someone that would like to make a motion to approve to advertise the proposed amendments to School Board Policy 320, media selection of print and non-print materials? I'll pass my gavel if I have to. I make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Motion's been properly made by Ms. Haynes, seconded by Ms. Goodrich. Any discussion? So because I'm chairing, I will go ahead and move to Ms. Brosmer. Go ahead.
Thank you for that overview. You actually clarified a couple of things for me, and in particular, I appreciate knowing the distinction between a single parent saying, I don't want my child to read this book, and a parent who may want to take it further and have it removed from school shelves. I didn't catch that. I will say all of the redlining was just brain cramp for me. So I very much appreciate your clarifications. With regard, I may be oversimplifying, but for me, the bottom line is Chapter 826 of the obscenity statute that applies to any minor, which is anybody in K-12. I thought one of the public comments was very interesting about maybe making a distinction that a book would be removed for middle school, but might be appropriate for high school. And I can see that happening, except in my head, and again, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but we wouldn't be likely to remove a book from school shelves more broadly if they don't violate Chapter 826. And so I take everything back to that. So in my mind, I can't justify the idea that a book would only be removed from certain levels or certain schools, or one school at a time. That doesn't make sense to me. If it violates Chapter 826, then that applies across the board. So am I misunderstanding that provision?
Ms. Brosmer, in the current policy as stated, when a book is objected to, and I know that's grammatically incorrect, you never end a sentence with a preposition.
We'll forgive you for tonight.
Thank you. In the current policy, it's always, if it's objected to at one school and removed, it's removed from that school alone. But what we're trying to do now is to have it where if it's objected to and the committee approves, it's removed from all Volusia County schools.
Okay.
That's what.
Thank you.
That's our proposal. Is that correct, Dr.?
That is correct, to look at it to see if it is a violation of law, because there are other reasons in the statute for violation of the law that are not just obscenity. There is grade and age appropriateness, and that is the reference that you're making in regards to that. So those are also components of the law. So the focus is on the obscenity or on, pornography and sexual conduct, because that is what gets the focus. But there are other components of that law as well. So that is where, when a decision is made about a book, we have to apply that. If we're looking at it at a district level committee, we would need to look at what the law says and then apply that. And it's not always just because of obscenity, the sexual conduct, or pornography.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have one more question. On the reconsideration, what was the thinking behind giving it 3 years? Is there a thought that statute might change, or what would change in a 3-year period that would make the district take it up for reconsideration?
So there's one of the concerns is the opportunity to relook at a book over time. And so this is the attempt to provide that opportunity again for a book that could potentially, if it violates the Florida statute, and it violates the Florida statute 3 years later, then of course it would not be allowed to be back in. But there are lots of other circumstances that occur, and there are nuances that do change in the law, so that at that time, if it is a title that a school or wants to add back to their media collection, and it is not currently in violation of the Florida statute, then it could be added back or considered for addition back to the collection.
Okay, and who would initiate that reconsideration?
That would be by the school. The school, when the school media advisory council is a group of individuals at the school who look at the needs of the school, the interests of the students, and the stakeholders at that school, and they're adding books to the library annually. We're always adding books, and so it would come through that group.
And would the reconsideration be apply to just that school or to all schools?
It would be individually to schools, because that school would be select. Just like now, every media specialist has the option to look at books, get recommendations from students, from faculty members about books to add to their library collection. And in that might be a consideration if a parent, a student, a faculty member wanted to add that book back. It would be recommended to the media specialist, who would then present it to the committee for consideration.
Okay, one more question then. I'm sorry, but your explanations make me think of other questions. So just projecting out, let's say in 3 years, a school wanted to bring back a title that had been removed from all schools. If they do, could that then be challenged for removal again?
It could be.
Okay.
It would follow the same,
same process.
It would.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think those are my only questions.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. My only concern right now is that there's current legislation being discussed. So if we put this out for advertisement and that changes, then do we have to put it out for advertisement all over again? And would it be more prudent to wait, since there is legislation pending that could affect this?
You can't press your button.
I can't press a button.
That's right.
That's my only, I don't have an issue with the policy, but it's just the timing of that. Would it not make more sense to wait? And if there is a reason that we're doing it right now and we're okay if legislation changes, I am open to that as well. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Ms. Haynes?
All right, so here we are, and here's what I'm going to say. There's a state law that says pornographic and sexually explicit materials are not supposed to be in our public school libraries. It doesn't designate what age they can be there for. It just says they're not supposed to be there. As I said a couple years ago, when this first was brought to me, I said there is no way there is a Volusia County School public library that has inappropriate sexually explicit, or pornographic materials in the libraries. Well, I was proven wrong, and they're there. And here's where I'm at. The people that everybody's saying we need to 100% trust, somehow those books with the people that were asked to 100% trust brought those books into our public school libraries. And the process that we've had to go through to remove them so that we're not breaking the law has been going on now for how many years? And every time this policy comes back up, it sometimes gets kicked down the road. And I don't understand why, because there is a law. And whether we have a policy for that law or not, we took an oath that we would follow the law. And we need to be following the law. No one that works for Volusia County Schools is exempt from the law. And the law says those materials will not be in our libraries, in the public school media center, in the teachers' classrooms. Now, there has been some processes put into place to alert parents that have students in an IB or an ACE program that there could be a topic or a book that those parents may not want their child to read, and they're allowed an alternative selection. But those parents sign knowing that that's one of the books that the IB program has put out or the ACE program has put out. I'm here tonight, and where I stand is I'm going to vote for this, even though I know there are 4 pieces of legislation right now up in Tallahassee. I'm not kicking this down the road again. We don't know what's going to happen in Tallahassee. We don't know which thing will come out. Will the governor approve it? Will they not? When will be the final date? But the clarifications in here are needed. And they're needed because here's some of the steps of what's happened. We've had principals receive emails when they have a book that's been brought to them, and if you lay it next to the law, it's broken the law, and they have removed it because it doesn't follow the law. Because keep in mind, yes, the policy ahead of this says the principals will sign for the new books that are coming into their school. Well, there is no way any one of our principals out there can read a list of 100 or 150 new books coming into their school. But they are responsible for what happens on their campus. I have been appalled that people have written them emails basically kind of threatening them for removing a book or telling them I don't agree with you. That's the last thing they need on their plate is another thing. And I agree. We don't need to hold school-based committee reviews, okay? We've already been through that process. And for those of you that weren't here, I could tell you how that went down. And it was not appropriate the way it went down. I support a district process, but what I'm going to say, if it is pornographic or sexually explicit with diagrams, drawings, photos, whatever, I can't believe we have to go through this many steps to remove a book that it should have never made its way onto one of our bookshelves. And so I am going to vote for this tonight. Then whatever comes out of Tallahassee does or does not come July 1st, yes, we'll be back here to adjust it because they will have given us a new law or new details to follow. But in the meantime, we have to move forward on this. I will say that when we do move forward on this, and I brought the whole committee thing up in the beginning. And at one point we looked at 11 members, we looked at 9 members, we looked at 7 members. I do think it might be a very good idea because we as board members are asked all the time to select someone. If you think about it, we're elected from our areas because people elected us to serve in this position. So when we do bring it back up after whatever happens in Tallahassee after this session, I would like to consider that each board member appoints a person to the committee, not for now, but for then. And as I've said from day one, if our school advisory councils have to have more than 50% of them have to be parents, will be meeting the law by increasing the number and each board member having an opportunity to select someone. And so I'm okay if there's a few more people on that committee, because I think we get a better representation then of what's on the committee. And so I'm okay that we still leave it open for some parents to apply for an open seat. But I believe we are capable of each selecting someone from our area to sit on that committee, but it's not a change I'm asking for tonight. But one other area that I have a question on is, it says that the person that's making the challenge has to complete the piece like within the 15 days. There's nothing about the timeline of what we have to do in Volusia County Schools. And I'm fine if you're writing up a procedure book, that these are the procedures that will be followed by school-based staff, district staff, superintendent, Dr. Evans, your office, whatever. But if we're going to put time limits on the people that bring forward a book, then there needs to be a time limit piece within our own organization. It shouldn't be, well, they get 15 days to have to do something and we get 6 months, because that is not showing that we're working together in collaboration. But I will be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chair, I think we did look at that particular issue about the number of days. Is that correct, Ms. Rubin?
Yes, so are you, Mrs. Haynes, are you referencing the time after the principal's conference? And if the principal sends that, the conference along with the specific material objection, then you want a time frame on that? Is that what you're
I think
you're
anytime we
recommending?
put a time frame on one side, there needs to be a time frame on the other side. And I will reference the transparency piece. I am not at all opposed to there being information, this is my opinion, on the website of any challenges or the process or the steps where they're at. But what I don't want to see is, yes, whoever does it is going to have to fill out a form, but I don't believe that person's name, their house information, their telephone should be posted there. I'm fine with, there has been a challenge of book ABC Sunshine, and it was, challenged and on this date, and this is the process it's in, but I am not going to be part of sharing information where, unfortunately, the world's a little bit of a scary place right now, and I don't want someone receiving any form of threats or people showing up at their homes or calling their phones and threatening them because they started a process on a book. And so that's the only other piece. But I'm all for transparency so that people can see what the books are that we are removing.
Thank you. Dr. Evans, so I have a question for you. Are we still amidst a federal lawsuit based on our current policy in place right now? Or is that still going?
We are currently
We're
in
named.
a law school where we were named. Yes.
Could this new policy be perceived as more restrictive than the policy we have that we're currently being brought for suit?
I don't believe it would be more restrictive. I think it further explains. It gives additional information. I don't think it's more restrictive. I think it's being more transparent, open, so people can express their ideas. If you notice in the new policy, which was not in the previous one, an individual now, if you don't like that a book is being challenged, we're giving you the opportunity before the district level committee makes the decision to come in, just like we do for public comment, and say, hey, I don't believe that this should be done. We've never done that before. And I think that is allowing people who are on the opposite side of the fence to express their concerns prior to a decision being made.
So we all know, and it was mentioned before, and Dr. Evans, I'm sorry, but this is Groundhog Day every single year. This time of year, we go through this policy. Right now, if we approve this today, it gets advertised, and the next meeting it may come back to us will be May 13th?
28 days.
Well, it's 28 days, but our last meeting is on, I think the way the timing falls is that the next meeting is going to be like May 13th. So we put this policy in place May 13th, and then on July 1st, everything that is going through session right now becomes law. And we're back here doing this on July 29th.
It won't be ready by then.
Okay, July 29th. How many book challenges have we had this year, since January?
We have not had any challenges.
How many book challenges have we had this school year?
We have not had any challenges this school year.
Okay. Does our current policy prohibit everything that Ms. Haynes said about pornography and all of that stuff? Does our current policy address that?
Yes, it does address that.
We can vote on this. This is great. This is going to go into effect in the middle of May, and then it's coming back in the end of July. Because there's going to be legislation. We know there's 2 or 3 bills right now. We know the likelihood of these being, so certainly, I'm okay, I'll vote for it, I don't care, it doesn't matter. I'm afraid of the lawsuit side of it, the fact that we have, so if this is perceived by anybody while we're in the middle of this litigation, if it is perceived that this is more restrictive, then we have a different problem, because we're gonna have additional. You're I hate to say, you're poking the bear for what's gonna be into effect for 2 weeks of the school year, and we're gonna have to revisit in July anyways. Is it really worth it? Is it really worth the perception that we are going, because the reason I feel that this might be perceived as a little bit more restrictive is that what's appropriate at Taylor, a book in Deltona about Roberto Clemente may be offensive at Taylor, may be offensive at Ormond Beach. It happened in Jacksonville, because it's 2 different communities. We're taking away that school-based ability for that school-based committee to make that decision. That's, to me, is taking away, so that's why I wonder. I'm good with it. We vote on it, it's fine, it's great, it passes. We're gonna have it for the next 2 weeks of the school year, and then in July, the new laws get written. They decide to get rid of the Miller test. It's in our policy, which is the obscenity statute, blah, 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 and we're gonna be back here. Is it, and if we weren't in litigation, it wouldn't be a big deal. But we're in the middle of federal lawsuit because our policy was considered, and again, I don't believe that we had any wrongdoing, but we're in the middle of getting sued. I use and I'm a very picture person. We're out on bail. You can't speed when you're on bail. Because if you get caught, you're gonna spend the rest of your time. We're in that window. We're getting sued right now as we speak. So that's my 2 cents. I know you're cringing. It's just, that's my thought. And so can I vote for this? Yeah. Is it gonna make a difference? No. Is it gonna change anything? There's 0 books. There've been 0 books all year long. 0 books, 0. We're talking about 0. So really, this is, I call it a shell game. It's a shell game of policy. Yeah, we got to pass it, but is it going to make a difference? No, there's nothing really. The only books that have been pulled are the ones that people come here and read. So even having that in our policy hasn't gotten rid of the porn from the books. Just saying. Anyways, thank you. Ms. Rosmeyer.
There was no place for me to do that. I understand your point. I will say that I'm willing to support this policy tonight. The fact that there have been no challenges this year, I don't think is an indication of a lack of desire to have done them, but a lot of confusion about what the policy and the procedure would have been. And so there's been a lot of waiting around trying to come to some resolution that would define the policy, and that may lead to some challenges. it's not difficult to, if, assuming that we were to adopt this tonight, it's not difficult to adjust that if a bill were to pass that would make some adjustments to it. Because there's nothing that I've read in existing, in anything that's been introduced so far, that is a drastic change from what we're doing. So I'm willing to be done with this for the moment. I think this is moving at the very least in the right direction, and it gives those who might have some concerns about some of the books that Mrs. Haynes referenced, a place to go with them. And so in order to move this ahead, I think this is a good start.
Anyone else? Very good. We have a motion and a second. Motion is made by Ms. Haynes, seconded by Ms. Goodrich. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Burbinski.
Madam Chair, and I will agree with you. I think there is some changes that need to be made. The randomizer, that could be anybody. I think we'll have to look at that in July. Because I'd rather have representation than just we picked 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and these 5 people may end up leaning one way or the other. And then everybody's going to complain anyways, and we're going to be right back here. Because we heard that when they did that the last time, and it was, they handpicked them. We were looking at what time did the email come in. No.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think if we select people, then it's people that are in our area that are sharing their feedback of what they want to see, and that's what we're here to do, is to represent them.
Okay. At this time, we are up to item 19.01, public participation. Do we have any cards? All right, so this is our final public participation for this evening. I have 2 cards, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And then after these 2 individuals speak, we'll move into the final part of the evening. So my first speaker is Erica Rudolph. Did I say that correctly? Followed by Christopher Gibbs. Welcome.
I'm sorry, I didn't come with anything written. My name is Erica Rudolph. I just moved here from Palm Beach County to Volusia County. Since I've been here and known Miss Bird, she has been nothing but love and inspiration to me and my family. The library is like a safe haven for my daughter, going through everything that we have been through. I was in nursing school in Palm Beach County. I ended up here because I lost everything and I went homeless. I actually came from a shelter. The school district are the ones that actually my daughter Journey, who goes to Turdy T. One of the aftercare teachers in Palm Beach County was having different little events in aftercare, and I kind of explained to her that my daughter couldn't participate, and she acted. So I know there are, some good people in, the district. And since I've been in Volusia County, going through so many different motions, trying to put my life back together and things like that, Miss Bird has been there for me and my family. Like sometimes I'm at work till like 4, almost 5 o'clock. My daughter's in the library with Miss Bird. She'll take that extra step and bring her home, or if she have dance, she'll say, "Hey, don't worry about it." I'm like, "I can't leave, I'm the closer." She helped me. She helps me out a whole lot, and it's coming from someone who, I was in nursing school. I lost everything. I ended up here. I had 5 months left. Here I am in Volusia County. I love it here. It's very homely, but I don't know the situation of what's going on, but I do know she have a heart of gold in her anything she do it out of act of kindness. It's times I couldn't afford certain things for my daughter. She say, "Don't worry about it. I got it. I'll, make sure." And then she'll pick her up, take her, do things with her, like that's her own child. And I seen her do it for other parents as well. But the love and the things she have done for my daughter. I mean, if she have to go work at another school, let her work at another school. Let her, be inspiring and help someone else. Don't just count her out. Like, I knew something was wrong because I say, Miss Bird, I looked at Journey. I say, Journey, Miss Bird, she's my my accountability partner. Like, hey, what's going on? Get yourself back, And so I'm like, what's going on? She was like, Miss Bird don't work at the school anymore. I said, what? So I called Miss Bird. She was like, I was wondering why you wasn't, and I was just stunned because I'm like, this has been like a safe haven, like everything that, even when I speak to my certain family members, I have family members that work in the school district and sheriff stuff like that. And when I talk to them and I even, it's they like see my children, see my daughter with the little dance outfit. I'm like, yeah, that's from 30T, Miss Bird, she works in the library. She helped, and they look at it. They be like, "Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Keep it up. Keep it up. We're happy. You putting everything back together." I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes."
Ma'am.
I'm not just any person. Even though I'm just standing here like this, I have a daughter that have a 3.7 GPA. She
Ma'am,
goes to Spruce
I'm
Creek.
sorry. Your time is up. I
Okay, I'm sorry.
apologize.
But I just think don't count her out. She's really, her intentions is really good.
Thank you. Christopher Gibbs.
I'm going to speak on a slightly different issue, but very similar. I encourage you to visit our school. It is beautiful. It has wide open spaces, great flexible teaching areas, and a bathroom in every classroom. You may have noticed on social media, but all of this is meaningless. Walk into our school now, and you'll feel it. The weight in the air, it is heavy. Something shifted when we moved. Something's broken. The culture at our school is no more, and it has been for some time. Teachers are sad. Teachers are depressed. Teachers are anxious. Teachers are feeling isolated. Teachers are feeling every emotion, but the most important, feeling loved and being heard. This year alone, I have watched so many teachers come and go. More teachers than what we have fingers. In fact, more teachers than what we have fingers and toes combined, over 20. So many good, wonderful teachers gone. And sadly, throughout the past month, I have been very open about my possibility of moving schools and possibly moving from the district. I have worked for Volusia County Schools for 16 years, and I have spent the past 9 years at the beloved Turie T. Small Elementary. I went to that school. My son went to that school. I love Turie T. I love the parents, the community, and most important, I love the kids there. But our school has fallen apart. Turie T. needs an entire revamp as we head into the new school year. Our scores are at an all-time low, and for those veteran teachers like myself that know how to push students to the next level, the pressure has fallen on us to make sure that we are not a failing school, and that is a lot of pressure. We need to stop putting a Band-Aid on the problem. That alone heals nothing. Let's fix it once and for all. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the final part of the evening, and so it's time for any items from board members, the superintendent, or the school board attorney. Do I have anyone that would like to speak first? Mrs. Brosmer?
I'm going to ask you to indulge me a little bit because I'll make this as brief as I can, but I wanted to go over some, some conversations I had in Tallahassee and some legislation that that doesn't appear to be on FSBA's radar, and we, as a board, didn't adopt a legislative slate, so it's not necessarily on our radar either. But I met with our delegation members, as well as bill sponsors and legislative staff. And I attended a couple of meetings, committee meetings, where a total of about a dozen bills were debated, and all of them passed out of committee. One or two of them were a little more contentious than others, but generally speaking, they passed with approval. A few of the ideas that came up in conversation with some of the members, I thought you might want to know about, just as their thoughts. One in particular was to end the one-year contracts for teachers. And that is included in one of the bills that's been introduced, but because it was also brought up as a priority for some of the members, I thought it was worth mentioning, because I do think that that is something that is important and matters. One member mentioned the relationship between declining enrollment and impact fees, which were dots I had never connected, but this member did, and so I thought I should toss that out. And another mentioned the possibility of introducing something maybe in another session that would change the criteria for assistant principals. And I thought that was worth mentioning too. I thought I would touch on a couple of the bills that are not on FSBA's radar. In particular, House Bill 439 has to do with, it does have a Senate companion. I didn't write down what that is.
All right, could you repeat that number?
439, and it has to do with public school personnel salary schedules. In the House, they sometimes do a preface page where they say, which is why I filed this bill. And I think this couple of paragraphs explains it better than I could in trying to summarize the bill. The sponsor says, Florida faces a critical teacher shortage, yet state-mandated salary schedules prevent school districts from properly compensating educators. Wage compression has eroded incentives, forcing talented teachers to leave. This bill restores local control, allowing school districts to design competitive salary structures that attract and retain top talent. Educators, school boards, and union leaders all support this reform. Without action, Florida risks falling behind in national rankings and losing teachers to better-paying states. By allowing local decision-making, this bill ensures Florida remains competitive in the teacher job market, giving students access to the best educators. This bill does not have an analysis right now. It does have a Senate companion, but it doesn't have a bill analysis yet because they are planning to do a strike all. And I don't have that yet. It hasn't been published yet. The strike all will just have some amendments in it, but the purpose of a strike all is just to keep from doing the kind of redlining that we had on the policy we just discussed. So when that strike all is available, I think it would be a good idea for us to take a look at it, because we have talked among ourselves about the effect that compression has had on our ability to properly compensate our teachers. And if this gives us more control over our ability to do that, I think it would be good if we were to weigh in on it. House Bill 1255 and Senate Bill 1618 are companions. And just a couple of sentences on what they address. We had some conversation today about our literary plan, and this may relate to that. But in the bill analysis, it says the bill provides for 2 additional components for a school district reading instruction plan and requires approval of the plan by Department of Education. And that addresses reading interventions, but it also creates a comprehensive system of mathematics instruction for students in pre-K through grade 12. And those who exhibit a substantial deficiency in early mathematics skills to mirror paper heavy here, the existing provisions related to reading intervention. And because this links or includes math as well as reading, I thought maybe that's something that we should also pay attention to. And finally, House Bill 123 and Senate Bill 140, which is the Gates-Andrade bill. I think that one is fast-tracked and it's likely to pass. But the provision in it that has to do with what school districts do with property that we own should be something that we're paying attention to, because this bill also has horsepower given its sponsors. And it determines under what conditions school boards may either acquire or surplus any land that we own. And in particular, it references districts that have had declining enrollment for I think of 4% over 5 years. And one of the things that concerns me is that these bills will affect us. And, you know, the saying is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I would like for us, the Volusia County delegation is influential. One of the reasons we were able to get rid of DCD is because we had a member who was able to do that for us. So for us not to pay attention to things that would have this kind of impact on us, I think is a mistake. And so I just wanted to mention these as examples of policies that look like they're going to be in bills that are likely to pass. There may be amendments to them, there may be changes, but we might want to weigh in with at least with our members, and tell them how those policies would affect us for better or worse before the vote's taken.
Good, Rich.
So I recently learned that our policy only allows us to create a school calendar for 1 year. And I'd like to ask that we revisit that. There are many states that create school calendars for 3 years at a time. When meeting with some of our principals, they shared that many families travel now and we have issues with absenteeism, and perhaps if they had more notice about when the school calendar was, they'd be less apt to travel on those dates. And I don't understand why we wouldn't go out that far. We know what a school year looks like. So I'd like to look at that. I'd also like to request that our facilities group does go back out to Turie T. There are quite a few issues out there that need to be addressed. We can talk about that offline. And I'd also like to request, I know we're going to be discussing the budget, and a succinct list of which schools are losing money. And I think we need to look at those schools. And then last, just a reminder that the Special Olympics is April 5th, and we still need volunteers. So please volunteer for the Special Olympics. Thank you.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. And Ms. Brosmer, you brought up quite a few bills, and I know that I'd spoken to some of our representatives as well, especially the Gates bill, because I do find that very interesting. I think most of us do, as far as the land and the surplus. And so I agree that communication should continue on until they vote on that. And I think that we all have access to our legislators' ears. So to continue on that, also one that you didn't mention, and you probably just overlooked it, was from 1473 from last year. That was a safety and security, because I know we've heard from admin, from teachers, how difficult some of that has been. I believe last year there was a lot that was overlooked that this year they are trying to figure out so that it's easier, still very safe, and there are multiple ways to do this. So I agree, just to keep on our legislators because session isn't over and, they haven't voted on certain things. But yeah, thank you to everyone who continues to do that.
I have nothing.
Okay, I do. So, last week during spring break, several of us were in Tallahassee. So Mr. Colon and I actually spent Wednesday morning at a meeting where I sit on the state board of directors for the Florida School Board Association, and we had a directors meeting. And every district, every medium to large district has their own representative. Then small districts group together, but they elect each year who's going to be their representative and their alternate. And that meeting was rather lengthy this time with a lot of information in it. During that meeting, we also received some updates on what's happening, in Florida, even with like the different laws and the things that are happening. From there, he and I moved on over to the legislative training session that FSB offered us. It started at 1 p.m. and it went all the way till 5 p.m. And we were fortunate, Manny Diaz came and spoke. His words were interesting. I may share them at a later date, but I'll give you a hint of what he talked about, that education becomes a marketplace for people to pick and choose what they want to buy or what supports they want for their children. We also heard from just our Indian River superintendent, who is the superintendent for the state of Florida this year. He talked about being intentional with your instruction, which was really good. But then we got into why we were there, and that was for, yes, FSBA has their platform, and I have copies of their platform. Their platform, the 5 issues they chose this year, and this was based on statewide input from all school board members. Number 1 was about the hurricane relief and community resilience, because we had some of our districts this year extremely impacted financially to the point that they lost schools and had to figure out how they were going to educate children. Administrative efficiency is the new term they're using for deregulation. And so FSBA, as us as a group, we support them continuing to do the deregulation, because then that puts us all on an even playing field, because we've been held to a lot of different standards that private charter and of course homeschool are not held to. And we had an opportunity the next day to even hear more about it. Attendance and accountability, that one's been brought forward by Erica Booth, who was a former school board member, and it is moving right along, and that's going to tie into our chronic absenteeism. And so a lot of us have written in support of that piece of what she's trying to do to cut down and address the chronic absenteeism. Then there was the school safety and law enforcement support. Absolutely, we all supported it, but I will tell you, we were able to meet individually with people that we normally wouldn't even be able to meet with, because they're not our legislators, but they're the people moving the bill or helping to write the policy. And even when we went to Ms. Thompson and Dr. Evans and I went and met in Tom Leake's office, the gentleman that works with him, his name is Mike, and he's been doing this for 30-some years. And he said, we wrote it, and there were some unintended consequences. And he took information down as we shared with him the examples of, like, used DeLand High, the double doors, and then the classroom doors. And he said, we are working through those things. So I feel confidently that they are going to make that. But that's a big thing FSBA is behind. And so everybody has been supporting that, because every district has had some issues with House Bill 1473 and them just saying, you'll do everything this way. And it hasn't necessarily worked. And then the education funding and fiscal responsibility was the 5th thing. But beyond that, we had the opportunity to even see a few people that I didn't know that we were going to get to see. Our next to last meeting of the day, and I apologize because I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name correctly, but she is the head of the pre-K to 12 Education Committee, but her first name is Dana, which that's what my daughter's name is, so I will not forget that. But we got to have a personal conversation with her along with Hillsborough County, and she read to us, Ms. Alberts, you're going to appreciate this. I know, but how do you say it?
Oh, Trabalski?
Trabalski. Okay. She read to us a letter from a teacher in the district she represents, that the teacher had tracked every moment of the assessment piece of what she was giving. And so she read that email out loud to the three of us, and along with Kim McDougall was with us, and as I said, Patty from Hillsborough. And she read it, and she said, so talk to me about this. What did we do right, or what did we do wrong, or how do I give teachers back more instructional time? She asked that question, and I was honest with her. And Ms. Thompson gave it from the viewpoint of having her own children taking the assessments. I gave it from the viewpoint of what we had thought progress monitoring would be. And between Patty and I, we summed it up. The problem with the progress monitoring right now, the way they've put it out, is it needs to be more diagnostic. If the progress monitoring could be diagnostic and not just tell us, like the benchmark or the standard, but actually tell us what it tested and we knew how the kids did on it, then we could cut down on some of the other assessments, because we were honest. We've got progress monitoring that doesn't give us enough information back. So therefore we go to our Volusia test, because it gives us the information back. So she heard us, she gave us her card and said she would like to have further conversation with us, because she really wants to find a way to give teachers back the instructional time, because this teacher had calculated up every minute of what was being spent in her classroom. And we said, well, the current assessments that the state is giving us to administer, we're not getting the information we need. And when we even shared about the dashboard and the information we get from that, she was very interested in it. So she said, so we need to do a better job at the state level with what we're putting out to you, so that you have what you need to know, so that you can reduce the number of assessments. And I said, that's the only way I see it happening at this point. So we did also talk to her. We also got to see the new Senate President, Albritton, and we talked about this because we've been there. There was a different feeling when we met with senators this year than there's ever been. They were calm, they were kind, they were patient. Even the ones that came in to meet us like in the Senate conference room, so that like 3 districts could have a chance to talk, because we all have the same issues, so many of us, that we're dealing with. But they walked around the room and introduced themselves to each of us, even if we weren't in their area, and we introduced ourselves, and they took the time, and I really think it's because of the new Senate President. He has set an expectation that you will show kindness, and as he said, love for everyone, and you will listen, because he said, we're not here just to go off on what we think, but we're here to be able to hear from all of you. And he took the time to hear from us that day. There's also a lady up there that I enjoyed her last year, and we had her back this year, and she was the first person of the morning, and her name is Kathy Mizarek. She just tells you the way it is. She tells you, here's what's happening, this is what's going to happen to this is, it doesn't she, Dr. Evans? I mean, she's very blunt, but she's just a joy, because she can give you all the details of what they're currently writing on, or what they goofed on, and what they have to correct, and I appreciate that. But some of the other things that we talked about, and we saw Ann Gerwig, and as I said, we saw all of our people, and they set up a nice day for us to be able to do that. But some of the other things that came up, there is an education or an educator certification and training piece out there, and there's both House and Senate have the bill, and it's going to be on mass casualty training. And that's a little tough, I will be honest with you. And some people shared even what it's like in their districts if they've been on campus when they've had to do the mass shooter training. And so even Ms. Thompson shared some thoughts on that, but that is up there. I was a little happy about this. We'll see how it falls out. The ESOL graduation requirement piece. They are looking at our ESOL students, especially our non-English speaker students, and they're looking, and both the House and Senate have bills on that, to see how those students still can be able to graduate and not just walk across that stage and get a certificate of attendance, which then does not open any doors for them. I was very happy with there's two different sets of ESE legislation. The one is for our autistic children, and they're looking at workforce credentialing or micro credentialing for those students with autism, and it's something we've needed to look at, especially with the rising numbers of how many students are being diagnosed with autism. And so both groups are working on that. I will tell you, most of the time, I prefer the Senate bill to the House bill. I kind of hope somebody will talk to the House and bring them in line, because I feel like the Senate has maybe done a little bit more work on that. But there's also the ESE piece that they're working on for students with all other disabilities, and how we could do credentialing for some of those students too. Because we know right now, those of us that have been in education for a long time, that our students in ESE, a large portion of them walk across that stage and just get a certificate of attendance. And yet, there are skills that they can do out there in that world, but we need to be able to help them get what they need, and they need to be recognized for the skills that they can do so that they can be employable and they can be part of productive citizens. And then under that, as I said, that administrative efficiency, it's going to clear up a lot. I personally am very, very concerned about the Andrade bill and how it's being pushed. And I spoke about it before we went to Tallahassee, all right? So I need all of you, those of you here, those listening at home, maybe those that'll pull it up and listen to this part. If we truly believe in public education, and we realize that public education is valuable for the majority of our students, I don't oppose choice. If a parent, there's been choice for years. I mean, I know a family years ago that homeschooled their children and their son got a full ride to Yale, okay? But they didn't take any government money for it. That was a choice they made. But going back to that marketplace piece, if these bills go through, we're going to have some of our own public schools where parents could make the decision to turn them into a charter school. It would be called a conversion school. So the way we finally got them to explain the numbers to us, because I needed to hear the numbers, it says a majority of the parents would come together in a meeting. Well, a majority is 50%. So I'll just randomly pick a school sitting in my area. So if the parents at Citrus Grove come together and 50% of those parents say, we wish to turn Citrus Grove into a charter school, they can hold a meeting, and as long as they have 50% of the parents there, they can vote. They only need half of the 50 to vote. So now you've brought the decision down to 25% of the parents at that school can decide to turn a public school into a conversion charter school. And no one else gets a vote if that bill goes through the way that it is. And that is very concerning to me, because it's not, so for anybody that was around back in the day when we had No Child Left Behind, and we had outside tutoring companies could tutor our children. So one day they were a lawn mowing company, and the next day they were a tutoring company, and that is the honest truth. That's what happened. And they would hold a fair, and they would come in and say, if you choose us, we'll give your kid a bike. If you choose us, we'll give you a gift card. My concern is I see charter schools coming in and saying, if you choose to convert your school, here's what we'll do for you. This is what you're going to get. And then the other piece is that a city could choose to take over one of our public schools. Same voting, majority of parents, so 50% of the parents have to show up to the meeting, and half of them have to vote, which brings you down to 25, and the city could take over the operation of one of our schools. And when you read that bill, it also says we will leave everything intact. We will leave all furniture, we will leave everything in that. We will not remove anything. So, guys, you got to think about this, because I'm not trying to be hard. I'm giving you the honest truth. Every time any of us go on to social media and we make statements in a negative way about our schools, about parents, about any of that, here's what's happening. When you attack a parent on social media, they have choices, and they walk out the door and they take their money with them, or enough of them will get together and they will turn themselves into a charter school or a city-operated school. And we have to be aware that that is what's happening, because our numbers are increasing every year of the number of parents that are making those choices. And they're making choices if or when they feel we have taken their voice away and we're not honoring that they are the parent of those children that are in our school, or when we argue with them, or we tell them we know better for their child than what they know. So those two bills, they're going to go through, and I've watched the committee meetings, because you don't have to be there to see them. Any one of you can pull it up and you can watch it, and you can see the questions that are asked. You can hear what people say. You can hear what the person pushing the bill will say. He said there'll be no amendments to it. There is no plan to put amendments in. The Senate bill is better, in my opinion, on that one than the House bill, but it also does look at our land. And we have already surplused quite a bit of land that we know we're not going to use because it's pieces left over from where we built something. But we have land we already have being held for the growth, where the growth, what was going to be 10,000 homes up in Ormond, but now it's 8,800 and something. We have a piece of land held there for a school. Well, if this goes through, we'll have to let all that land go. And then when we need it, there's not a clear direction on how we'll get it back, or what it will cost us to get a piece of property then to build the school that we need. So that's what I want to leave you with tonight, and I want to thank Mr. Cologne for spending the whole day on Wednesday with me as we went through all of this, the Board of Directors meeting, and all of the training that FSA brought, and the great speakers they brought over to review and answer all of our questions. And I want to thank Ms. Thompson and Dr. Evans for spending, we got in there a little before 9 a.m. and we didn't leave till a little after 5 p.m. Spending the whole time with me as we met with everyone. And I appreciated the extra opportunities we had to meet with people that we normally would not have even been able to meet with, but they came and met with us. And so what I can say to you is, look up and write a personal email. Tell them what some piece of this means to you, or what it could mean to your community, or what it would mean to your child. And I do like the fact of what they're looking at. They need to give us the control over the salary piece. We have, every time we think we're going to have control, we have done what they've asked us, and then right at the last minute, they have pulled the control back. That's what we've been dealing with for a few years now. It was like, well, if you get to this point, then we'll give you, control. We got to that point, They're like, no, we're not going to give you control. And so that's why I still say thank you to whoever figured out the longevity and retention supplements so that our teachers that have the experience that were compressed are able to get that money in another way. But that's all I have for this evening. And thank you to everyone that took the time out to go up there and meet. All right, then it is 8:08 and we are adjourned.